guys, we're gonna get started in a minute. Let me just do a little bit, do this real quick. Good evening, Rhonda. Good evening, Indiana Grandma. Shared with FBI. Excellent work, Agent Breedlove. Excellent work indeed. Man, what time is it? 12:45. Shit, I wonder if I should do this tonight. I didn't realize it was this late. Oh, this might be a false alarm, guys. I might actually wait for this till tomorrow. I thought it was like an hour earlier than what it is. I don't know. We'll wait for a second. We'll see if anybody hops on. I don't know though. Man, I really don't know. Cause we'll be up to like 3 or 4 in the morning. Most likely. I don't know if I want to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning. Unfortunately, it is not Brother Matthew. You know, I don't know, for some of you that hopped on, we could watch this real quick. Cause yeah, I think maybe we'll do the sovereign thing tomorrow, because I really didn't mean to take so long tonight getting everything set up. But finishing that article was horrible. I don't know. I was hoping that I could get live by around 10. Oh, what to do. Let me see. Let me take a look at how many related videos and shit there is. Man, I'm really leaning towards we should probably do this tomorrow. But I can show you guys this weird stuff that I'm going to look into tonight and probably do something on tomorrow. Which I'll do that separate from the sovereign thing. I keep on getting messaged about this. So actually this will be like my consolation. I'll probably delete this later on. And maybe we'll do the sovereign live tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it tonight. I don't know. We'll give it a minute. But check this out. So people keep on asking me to look into this, and so you guys can kind of see this firsthand while I'm seeing it. Let me see if I remember his Twitter as well. This is kind of odd, and I'm not sure really what to make of it yet. Yeah, and this will probably do a live on tomorrow as well. But I don't know. I don't know that we'll do. I think we'll do the sovereigns tomorrow. For the most part, that is a good summary of the sovereigns. It definitely is a little bit more detailed, but I don't know. You can have a peek at what the live will be like. In the description, there's a link to an article that I did on the sovereigns. Yes, Field McConnell has been extradited out to Broward County, Florida. He's made it there. All right, what? Do you guys want to do the sovereign thing? I guess there's enough you. People can catch it on a rebroadcast. Oh, all right. Okay, but we're going to try and get through this in somewhat of a decent amount of time. You heathens. Oh, you damn heathens. Yeah, maybe I'll wait on Adam. Actually, okay, do you guys want to see the Adam Herrman thing too? Let's check out this Adam Herrman thing. This is a kind of weird thing. So this is like right near my home city. I don't know why that video is a little bit screwy. Is it screwy there? Okay, that video is a little screwy. But this is right near my hometown. This Adam Herrman, he's claiming that he's a missing child from, well, actually here, I guess he only does a little sentence. I'm a missing person, Adam Herrman, missing since 1999 in Butler County, Kansas. I have been trafficked by the state and Catholic diocese. This is my video content recorded an hour or so ago by myself in my home. Okay, so he claims that the diocese and the fucking state kidnapped him and shit. I'm gonna actually put something together in this later, but I guess we'll go ahead and do this, and then we'll check out some of the sovereigns.
Kidnapped in 1999, or labeled as missing in 1999. My foster parents, Valerie, being the most important from what she did to me during the time, didn't report me, but I did not run away. I was transferred to another family known as the Smith family in El Dorado. Tamara and Jeremy Smith masqueraded as my grandmother and father, respectively. I'm going to show my face. We're going to talk for a moment here, and the main reason that I'm doing that is because I've come to understand the complexities of this related to the Catholic diocese and the Catholic Church, and those have already been actively reported. I will be honest, I have feared for my safety during this process. I've been a man enslaved by this system for my entire life. It is
so yeah, we won't go too far into that. I'm gonna do something more on that tomorrow. He's also, and I haven't taken much of a look through here, been on his Twitter, tweeting out a whole bunch of stuff. I've been mutilated by the Smith family. My freckles were removed. My mouth and anus has been cleaned with alcohol and peroxide many times. I have abundant stomach scars, and the birthmark is visible sometimes, but now is mostly a red line of scar tissue. I mean, I don't know. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up on another browser in case it disappears. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say that is obviously a pretty fucking insane claim. A bunch of people are starting to see this. So over on Facebook, it's starting to go viral. I don't know. He had my attention, but I'm definitely a little weird by the whole removing freckles and everything. Kind of getting into the weird conspiracy realm there. This might be, I don't even know. wonder. And I see, I haven't even looked up this case yet. It's just over in Butler County, Kansas. Jennifer Lee Wilson. I did see something about he claims Jennifer Lee Wilson is his mother. I don't know. Like, this dude could just be having a moment and might be kind of terrorizing some families. So I don't know. That one's a little too hard. But we'll do a live on that tomorrow. That should be an interesting one. That should be a fun time. That should be a super fun time. So, sure, I know all about the different traffickings and everything and religious, but the research isn't to learn more about what's going on with the trafficking side. Like, just because somebody screams the Catholics trafficked me doesn't mean, like, it's awesome. It's awesome to hear things that line up with some of the conspiracy stuff, but you do have to research more and just look. I mean, I don't know. I believe he has been saying some claims to Epstein as well. There's some warning signs. There's definitely some warning signs there. But let's do this sovereign citizen thing. We can go ahead and do it. Why not? It shouldn't take super, super long. So basically what I was thinking is I put together this article. I'll walk you through this article and then actually back it up with what I'm talking about in the background here. A lot of you guys that are like just coming on to following, from Francesca Amato to David Jose to Field McConnell, all these different people, Kirk Pendergrass, there's this whole sovereign thing is 100% a huge problem. And the thing is that we've been covering it on like the CPS aspect, and that's a very, very small aspect of what the sovereign movement actually is and how much it has grown over these last few years. But it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. A lot of people with it, they say that being sovereign isn't a crime, which is correct. They're 100% correct when they say that. But the problem is that it is classified as being a domestic terrorist. So doing this kind of stuff, doing these sovereign actions can 100% get you on a domestic terrorism list with the FBI. And there's good reason for that. We'll actually get to that. This actually isn't really something of the FBI just overstepping their power. There's actually really good reason for why sovereigns are declared to be domestic terrorists. So this right here that's on the screen is from the FBI in 2010. And basically let's just go through it. Domestic terrorism, Americans attacking Americans because when U.S.-based extremist ideologies comes in many forms in our post 9/11 world. To help educate the people, we've previously outlined two separate domestic terror threats: eco-terrorists, animal rights extremists, and lone offenders. Today we look at a third threat, the sovereign citizen extremist movement. Sovereign citizens are anti-government extremists who believe that even though they physically reside in the country, they are separate or sovereign from the United States. As a result, they believe they don't have to answer to any government authority, including courts, taxing entities, motor vehicle departments, or law enforcement. This causes all kinds of problems and crimes. For example, many sovereign citizens don't pay their taxes. They hold illegal courts and that issue warrants for judges and police officers. They clog up the court system with frivolous lawsuits and liens against public officials to harass them. And they use fake money orders, personal checks, and the like at government agencies, banks, and businesses. So right there, like if you've been following any of these cases that we've been looking at and whatnot, Arlena Willis and then Crystal Nuttall. In the article that's in the description, I actually used Crystal Nuttall for basically an example of the legal courts. After Crystal Nuttall, and here, let me get that a little bit better for you. After Crystal Nuttall was arrested and convicted with 3 other women for kidnapping a child from CPS care in Arizona in Tucson County. She had the American National Union of the United States of America and Party, whatever in the hell that is, make up this declaration of indictment against the state of Arizona for abuses against her. So, like this right here, and that's one of the things I'm telling you, as you look into the sovereign movement, as you look at different things that they do, you can literally just pick out the things that these different people we've been watching are doing. Like it's sovereign through and through. I just wanted to start off with this FBI part because we'll also explain that sovereign thing. One of the big things, and the FBI plays into that, is that they don't call themselves sovereign citizens. It's going to be very, very rare, very few and far between that somebody actually says, I am a sovereign citizen. And a big reason behind that is because of the FBI declaring them domestic terrorists, which makes sense. The other excuse that they use is the sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, which is true. That's 100% correct. It is an oxymoron, but it doesn't change the fact that the FBI calls them sovereign citizens. A lot of them have moved over now to new terms like common law and constitutional law and Freeman, especially in other countries around the world. The word Freeman has become very popular in several countries around the world, where it's still the same basic fundamentals of what's like, because sovereign seems like total just chaotic nonsense, because for the most part it is. It's like if law school consisted of only drinking vodka and reading Black's Law. Like, there's not a lot of sense. You can sometimes find coherent sentences, but the rest of it is like somebody that's been drinking vodka for a month solid and reading Black's Law. I can't really think of a better summary of that. But here, we'll still continue going through with the actual, like, FBI, like why they think, or why it is actually dangerous to be affiliated with these guys. That's just the beginning. Not every action taken in the name of the sovereign citizen ideology is a crime, but the list of illegal actions committed by these groups, cells, and individuals is extensive and puts them squarely on our radar. In addition to the above, sovereign citizens commit murder and physical assault, threaten judges, law enforcement professionals, and government personnel, impersonate police officers and diplomats, use fake currency, passports, license plates, and driver's licenses, and engineer various white-collar scams, including mortgage fraud and so-called redemption schemes. So the process of redemption is interesting. It's basically, that's the straw man conspiracy theory. So sovereigns in general, and again, this is one thing that I can't stress enough. There is no like head sovereign citizen gang. That doesn't exist. It's hundreds and thousands of little small groups. Some of you guys that have been following me for a little while throughout all these groups probably have heard some of this stuff before. But again, this is just one video and one article where I can put a good chunk of sovereign information in it for future reference, and just to basically direct people. I get new people that are watching some of this stuff asking what the hell a sovereign citizen is, and I realized that I didn't have like that one central place of information. So again, that's what that link in the article is as well. Where was I going with that? Redemption. Okay, so yeah, they believe that they are two different identities. Basically, it's actually, we'll come back to that. Let's go through the FBI part first, and then we'll go into some of the actual ideology. Sovereign citizens are often confused with extremists from the militia movement, but while sovereign citizens sometimes use or buy any illegal weapons, guns are secondary to their anti-government, anti-tax beliefs. On the other hand, guns and paramilitary training are paramount to militia groups. During the past year, we've had a number of investigative successes involving sovereign citizens, a few recent cases. In Sacramento, 2 sovereign citizens were convicted of running a fraudulent insurance scheme. Operating outside state insurance regulatory guidelines, the man set up their own company and sold lifetime memberships to customers, promising to pay any accident claims against their members. The company collected millions of dollars but paid out very few claims. In Kansas City, 3 sovereign citizens were convicted of taking part in a conspiracy using phony diplomatic credentials. They charged customers between $450 and $2,000 for a diplomatic identification card, which would bestow upon the holder sovereign status, meaning they would enjoy diplomatic immunity from paying taxes and from being stopped or arrested by law enforcement. And in Las Vegas, 4 affiliated with the sovereign citizen movement were arrested by the Nevada Joint Terrorism Task Force on federal money laundering, tax evasion, and weapons charges. The investigation involved an undercover operation with 2 of the suspects allegedly laundering more than $1 million from what they believed was a bank fraud scheme. Now, that was from 2010 with the FBI. This is 2011. This one, I don't know if we'll go through all of this. This one's a little bit longer. What is it? It's more of an explanation. But this is also from the FBI. I believe both of these are linked in the article that is in this description. You're starting to see like a weird fusion. Some people are getting confused because just last May, QAnon was declared as possible or potential domestic terrorists by the FBI. But that's a little different than the sovereign citizen thing. But you're kind of seeing this like boiling pot, this melting pot, because now you have a lot of sovereign citizens that are involved in these different conspiracy groups, and they're definitely involved in QAnon. So you're seeing this group of like sovereigns and common law and Freeman now moving over to the QAnon group, who is now declared domestic terrorists. So there's like this little super domestic terrorist entity that's going on. But to start explaining actually how these guys think. Let me see here. Oh, I was scrolling in the wrong area. Police as well. That's also an interesting point that I almost forgot about. With the FBI, police are also instructed when they encounter a sovereign citizen to try and gather any information they have and give it to their local investigative people to pass along, to not just gather information on these sovereigns for the FBI and other agencies, but also to protect other officers and whatnot, and let them know their presence because of liens, fraudulent liens. One of the biggest things that, like, the most powerful weapons that sovereigns have is they file these fraudulent liens. And regardless of it being total bullshit, a lien doesn't just go away. So they've actually pushed people into bankruptcy and shit because of these fraudulent liens. They normally take attorneys, and they can take up to a year to get rid of. So there's a lot of problems with some of this paperwork that they're filing, and they think they're accomplishing things. They don't in the long run. It's just they find weird little loopholes and then really cause chaos and a lot of dysfunction when they exploit that. I actually got an example here. I got me a sovereign video up here. And all these videos are in the article and whatnot too. So again, you can click that article in the description and go back and see any of this stuff. Let me go ahead and fix this screen for you guys a little bit. Oh. There we go. That's nice. That looks nicer. The vast majority of sovereign citizens either deny the authority of the federal government and the lawfulness for it to exist. They will often claim that they are not citizens of America or whatever country they live in. Instead, they may consider themselves to be citizens of independent sovereign nations or citizens of the state or province that they reside in. So, like, They'd be a resident of Connecticut instead of a resident of the United States of America. A growing theme in the sovereign community is the claim they are part of a religious nation that only answers to the authority of God. The religious shield helps to draw in supporters under the guise that they are doing God's work. Once a sovereign claims a fictional existence outside of the United States, they then push the idea that they exist outside the jurisdiction of the government. And the argument is basically you can almost always shut down a sovereign argument if you just ask them for legal documents proving what they're claiming. Like 9 times out of 10, if you ask for a legal document, they're going to stop. But this is. Should we go ahead and? Yeah, we can watch this one real quick.
Keisha Johnson. Yeah, Keisha Johnson. Come on up here, ma'am.
I would like to stand here.
No, you got to come stand at this podium. I get.
Tell me what.
No, ma'am, you have to come up here. We can't.
The laws of the state of Kentucky.
Oh yes, as in like
Okay.
law, laws, that's right.
Come up here and stand at this podium. I have to get you on the record so that so that we can see you with your argument.
Okay, well for on the record, I reserve my
No. All right, and now, do you have a lawyer?
right. No.
It looks like somebody named Klein.
You guys appointed it to me.
No, nobody appointed it to you. Klein was somebody who. Let me look at this, Miss Johnson. No, I don't think so. Let me look. Let me look. Dale Warren was once your lawyer.
Now, this video is actually going to show what happens when you try and question your jurisdiction.
You know Dale Warren?
Was once is not is no longer.
Okay.
Came in earlier and wanted to be his name.
All right. So you want to represent yourself. Is that true, Miss Johnson?
Actually, I would like to know.
Okay. Well, Miss Johnson, I really don't want to create some big scene.
Okay, well.
Hang on for a second. I do not want to lock you up, but I may very well have to. I need for you to come up here and stand at this podium.
Can I just sit here?
No, you cannot.
Being pretty
No, you
fair.
cannot. You have to come up here and stand at this podium.
Okay, can you put on the record that I reserve my rights when I cross this bit?
Yes. What, Miss Johnson? I need to know what you're doing, Miss Johnson. I need you to stand at this podium. All right. Next up, Chris.
Show me the law.
All right. Chris? Chris? Go ahead and lock her up. Go ahead and take her into custody.
What are you doing? There's no right. You have no right.
Just sit over there. Nothing's going to happen.
I mean, anybody, you have no right. What is this for? Are you guys watching this? Under the Constitution, you have no right. No right for that.
Yeah, I'm not finished with her yet.
What are her charges? I'm sorry, she's not. You like her up and abusing her.
No, I'm not okay.
All right.
What are her charges? I'm sorry.
Come up here and stand at this podium, Miss Johnson.
I'm standing here because I'm an inspector of common law.
Okay.
And
So you're refusing to come here and stand in front of the bench. Is that true?
no, I reserve my rights, correct?
And that's fine, but come up here and stand at this podium. All right, first I want to talk about you and your case. All right, so you are charged with... my panic button doesn't work there, by the way. Anyway, You're charged with possession of marijuana, tampering with physical evidence, and possession of drug paraphernalia.
I don't understand any of that.
All right. Well,
I
you're
don't
charged with
understand any of
illegally possessing marijuana. You are charged with tampering with physical evidence and possession of drug paraphernalia.
I don't understand any of that.
Well, there's not a whole lot more. There's not a whole lot more I can do to try to explain to you.
Okay, let's start here. Can you guys prove jurisdiction? Prove jurisdiction, because I come in under common law. Prove your jurisdiction, that you have jurisdiction over me. Prove jurisdiction. A court cannot proceed until you guys prove jurisdiction. Show me your jurisdiction. Show me your law.
All right. All of our laws are codified in the Kentucky Revised Statute.
Show me jurisdiction. Show me law.
Hey, there you go.
Okay, that doesn't prove that you have jurisdiction.
Okay, so what else? Now, there's a simple way for me to prove jurisdiction to you, and that would be for me to ask the deputy to take you into custody. I have absolute confidence that I have jurisdiction.
I don't have any formal charges. Like, you take me.
You do have formal charges.
Formal charges would be a complaint against me and another individual.
No, it doesn't have. I don't need another individual.
That's a citation, correct?
Okay.
That's not formal
All right.
charges.
All right. So, what do you want to do about your case today?
Prove jurisdiction to me.
I don't have to prove jurisdiction
Yes,
to you.
do. In
All
the
right.
law, it
I'm going to
says
prove
you have
jurisdiction to you right now. I'm going to ask the deputy to go ahead and take you into custody.
Under what charges?
Under
what charges?
you are disrupting my court. I don't know where it is.
That right there is about how 99.999% of sovereign law ends up. I mean, honestly, that's right about, that's the majority of how it ends up. And some of them, you've heard them talk about jurisdiction before. Jurisdiction's a pretty common argument when it comes to the real sovereign beliefs, and that goes back to the fact that they believe they're outside of the jurisdiction. But so we'll back this up a bit. So the sovereign movement in general, I said this earlier and I've kind of said this before. It's funny that people like David Jose join and shit like that, because originally the sovereign movement started off as a racist sovereign group. It was actually, it's traced back to 1971 in Oregon. Posse Comitatus was the name of the actual group. So, let me see here. I'm not sure if I have something pulled up for this stuff. No, maybe I don't. Okay, I don't think I really have anything pulled up for this part. But it's Posse Comitatus. The Posse Comitatus Act was basically putting specifics in on the federal government and the Army, using Army, Navy, shit like that, Army, Air Force to handle civil issues. Basically, our military getting involved in civil issues. So this was basically a group that believed they were the power. Definition of Posse Comitatus: the power or force of this country, the entire population of a country above the age of 15, which a sheriff may summon to his assistance in certain cases as to aid him in keeping the peace, in pursuing and arresting felons. So the name kind of gives you an idea of what they're going for. They're like the protectors. They also believed in county law. They didn't believe in any law above that of a county. They believed everything should end at the county because, again, the main thing with the sovereign is that their gripe is with the federal government, not with all governments. Normally sheriffs and counties, they'll normally have respect for them if they're true sovereigns. These kind of newer screw everything sovereigns don't really have that same little foundation. But a big part of the common bond between all these different sovereign groups, because all these different sovereign groups do different little twists on all of their shit, just little teeny differences. There's the same core values for the most part amongst all of them, and a big part is actually comes back to the 14th Amendment, and it comes back to, I believe, William P. Gale, which William P. Gale, he's the man behind Posse Comitatus, the hate group. He was also, what else was he involved in? I forget what else he was involved in. He was involved in a couple other hate groups. But you can really thank him. Gale is a big part of the sovereign movement and what it is now. So basically what happened is Gale mistakenly identified the 14th Amendment as an act that converted sovereign citizens into federal citizens. And the exact part that confused him is all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Many sovereign groups today mistakenly interpret the first line of the 14th Amendment, which we just read, as meaning all citizens of the United States are slaves to the government due to the federal government overriding state laws. Some have come to the conclusion that they can file paperwork with their county government to renounce the amendment, which in turn frees them from the legal confines that bind their fellow American slaves. Because anybody that's underneath that, the 14th Amendment, they say they're slaves. You are a slave if you're going by your federal identity, because it's your federal identity and your flesh and bone identity. Admiralty law and maritime law, that's very common. Sovereign groups differ from blah, blah, blah. Let me see here. Sovereign groups are different from other groups under watch by the federal government, as there is no central group. Instead, the sovereign movement is made up of countless smaller groups that share the same basic belief but differ in some of the more specific details. In general, sovereigns build their propaganda on their detailed but mistaken interpretations of language written into laws. They will commonly create very intricate webs of connections between the Constitution, court decisions, and irrational or international treaties to act as evidence to support their radical claims. And it can actually sound super impressive at times, but like that right there describes Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett to a T. Kirk always likes to play with the wording. You know, lawful, law. What's the origin of law? Law is to do law. And then what's the origin of full? Full is to be full. Lawful. That's what lawful means. It doesn't mean what they're, Kirk does that crazy shit. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. Just their interpretation, they're wrong. They're mistaken interpretation of what they're reading. They don't have anybody to correct them. That's the biggest problem. I'll always say that Kirk probably could have been a good attorney if he didn't have felonies on him and wasn't trying to scam people and actually went to law school. I think Kirk Pendergrass actually could be a good attorney just because his memory and his way to spit out the bullshit is great, but he's wrong. He doesn't have anybody there to correct him, and he's getting by. Sovereigns commonly claim the United States as a corporation, not a country. All of the laws in the United States allegedly come from admiral law or maritime law. Maritime law is a combination of U.S. tax and international law, which covers contracts, torts, injuries, or offenses that take place on navigable water. Navigatable, jeez. It's definitely late. What is it, 1:30 already? Jeez. Traditionally, maritime law only covers the ocean, but later expanded to cover lakes, rivers, and any other public body of water. Many sovereigns use this belief to claim any legal issue as a contract dispute, and that's a super big thing with the sovereigns. Like, it's all about contracts with their arrests and everything. That's what they go to, and that's why they turn to like maritime law and shit like that, because to them they can say everything is a contract. If they get arrested, they're saying that they're not arrested because they never agreed to this contract to be a citizen or take part in this arrest. And that's where the contract shit is super important, because they basically believe they are opting out of imaginary contracts between people and the governments. And that's not just American government. This is pretty common throughout the entire world. Yes, 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 L. Kennedy, that the gold thing, we're actually coming to that. So, like, one of the most famous sovereign beliefs, the straw man theory. This is like gold. This sovereigns pump little straw men in their blood. That's how much of this is a part of the sovereign conspiracy world. The majority of sovereigns believe when the federal government abandoned the gold standard in the 1930s, it began substituting its citizens to use as collateral with the foreign investors. As with any other sovereign belief, the specifics can differ from group to group, but the basic theory goes as follows. The United States has a secret treasury account set up for each and every citizen at birth. Each account has hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in it or pledged to it, and common number for that is normally $630,000, oddly enough. I don't really know why that number. These accounts cause two separate identities to exist. The identity used as the collateral for the foreign investors or the straw man, and their flesh and blood identity. So that's like the basic of a sovereign, where they're trying to claim that they're two different people. And I actually have an example coming up of that in just a moment. Yeah. This guy is a good example of that. Sovereigns believe the strawman identity is enslaved by the federal government, claiming the person's name being written in all capital letters in legal documents as evidence. If you guys remember with the Arlena Willis case, anybody that's been following this and knows the Arlena case, Arlena used to call out the use of all capital letters. That's a sovereign thing. And again, you don't have to claim to be sovereign or even accept that you're being sovereign. Just make sure people are clear. Like, being sovereign is using these ideologies, sharing these ideologies, and then practicing from them. So regardless of you admitting you're a sovereign or saying you are, if you're doing this stuff, then in the eyes of the federal government, you're in a group of domestic terrorists, basically. You're a sovereign. Sorry for your luck. That's just kind of how that goes all around. But again, Arlena, she was saying that she didn't have to answer CPS and she didn't have to answer a lot of her legal documents because her name was being placed in all capital letters. Not true. This is a common reason why sovereigns believe birth certificates, social security cards, driver's licenses, tax forms, court documents, and anything that uses capital letters to spell out their name represents their corporate shell identity or their straw man. So they believe that it's not their flesh and blood, which the flesh and blood identity does not have a contract with the federal government, whereas the straw man identity has a contract with the federal government, if that's making sense to everybody. To avoid agreeing to what they believe is a contract with the false government or becoming a federal citizen, sovereigns will often sign their name in strange fashions. A sovereign may identify themselves as an executor for their straw man. They may also claim to be an executive trustee for the private contract trust known as, or second party, authorized representative, attorney in fact on behalf of the fill in with the straw man name. So that'd be like, I am the attorney in fact on behalf of Miko. So, but in reality, it's me. Sovereigns may also add hyphens, punctuations, colons, and copyright symbols into their name. The prefix noble is commonly seen along with the suffix bay or elbay. Documents from a sovereign may also include red ink, thumbprints, or the zip code in brackets to further show you are not dealing with an enslaved strawman or federal citizen. Separating the strawman from their flesh and blood identity is known as the redemption theory. And so that's really what this boils down to. Redemption is one of the biggest things that there is separating your strawman identity from your flesh and blood identity is the meat of the redemption theory. But this guy that I'm about to play actually does a very good He shows us what it means to deny your.
With DUI, expired tag, attaching a plate not assigned, license suspended, failed to drive in a single lane. Just give me a moment, sir. Let me look at your driving record. Okay?
Sir, I haven't said for the court how I'm appearing today,
Well,
sir.
I'm not asking you yet. Just give me a moment, all right? I need to look at your record. Okay, I'm looking here. Failure to pay traffic tickets. Back to
16582.
A. Okay.
And that's it.
Mr. Hall, so would you wanted to say something.
Yes, may I speak, Judge?
Well, don't tell me about what happened or did not happen regarding the DUI, but if you want to tell me about something
I'd like
else,
to
go ahead.
state some things.
Go ahead.
I'd like to state some things for the record. Thank you, Judge. Judge John Hurley, I do accept your oath of office here today for the record, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Does
sir.
this court take court take judicial notice of your oath, sir? With all due respect.
Let me see. I take judicial notice of my own oath. Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
That's a common thing amongst all of them. I think that Mitch Smith, possibly Fran, and a few others all do the taking oath thing.
Sir, today I'm appearing as the agent and settler for David Hall.
Okay. Okay. Could you get Mr. Hall for me then, sir? Where is he?
I go by that name, sir. My name sounds exactly like the defendant's, and I'm here to settle that matter today.
So are you and David Hall one and the same person?
I'm not a person, I'm an individual. David Hall is a person.
Okay.
I am
Are
the
you
agent to
and
that
David
name.
Hall one and the same individual?
I go by the name David Hall, sir, and I'm
Okay.
here about that matter today.
Okay, so you go by the name David Hall. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. The person who goes by the name of David Hall who's standing in front
I'm
of
the
you.
individual.
You're
I am
the
an
individual.
individual, not a person.
You're not a
Yes,
person.
sir. David Hall is a person. I am a private individual. David Hall is a person under color of law, sir.
Okay, where's David Hall then? The person David Hall.
He exists on paper, sir. David Hall is a corporation. This
Okay.
action is under color of law, sir, and I do understand that. I am here in my real capacity as the private individual for that name.
Okay,
And I'm here
sure.
about that matter.
You're the
and I'm happy to
you're
settle
the
it.
private individual, David Hall.
I'm the settler, sir.
You're the settler,
settler.
David Hall.
I'm the settler to David Hall, sir.
Are you the
I'm
private
happy to-
individual, David Hall?
Yes.
Good. Okay, we got that straight. We agree on that. Okay. Now, David
May I,
Hall,
sir?
David Hall, the private individual. I'm looking at your driving record right now. Multiple failures to pay traffic tickets for the individual, David Hall, not the person. But, sir, what I'm going to do...
Can you clarify,
Go
sir?
ahead.
I'm not sure I understand that, but I'm happy to settle this matter right now if somebody will make presentments. Nobody has made presentment, and I've asked numerous times, and for the
When
record,
you say presentment, what do you mean by presentment?
presentment of the charging instrument for set-off and settlement, sir. I am the settler.
I just told you what it is. I told you what your I told you what the individual
Presentment,
David Hall did.
This poor
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I will require somebody to make me a presentment of the charging instrument on paper so that I may settle that matter. I'm here as settler, and I'm happy to settle this charge
We're not
right
gonna
now.
We're not settling. Today's not the day to settle matters for these kind of charges. All right. We don't settle them today. All right.
May I say something else for the record, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I am secured party under a UCC filing at the Secretary of State 201-308-717-006.
Okay.
I am secured party to David Hall on the record and through a filing at the Secretary of State, sir. I appear here today as the settler, agent, not the person, but the individual. And I don't think I should have you understand the
So
difference
you're the
between a
settler,
person and an
you're the
individual.
agent, and you're the individual, but you're not the person. Is that correct?
Correct.
Got
Correct.
it. I'm going to write that down. Settler.
I'm going to write that down.
Agent, an individual, but you're not the person. Got it. I think, I remember, I think it was last week you told me this too. And I was a little uncertain, but it's all become very clear now. Now, Okay, the settler, the agent, the individual, but he's not the person. Okay, so does the settler, the agent, the individual have any money in the bank?
Yes.
Okay, how much money does the settler, the agent, the individual have in the bank?
I'm not certain at this time, sir.
Okay.
Only that I will give it an affirmative that there is money in a bank account.
Okay, and how long has the settler, the agent, and the individual lived in Broward County?
25 years, sir.
Okay, does the settler, agent, individual own any property in Broward County other than personal effects?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, does the person own any property or have any money in the bank? If you know.
In conjunction with myself, sir. In conjunction with myself, we both have. Yes, I'm the agent for that account also.
Okay, got it. Okay, so now. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. The settler, the agent, the individual, and maybe even the person, David Hall, has been charged with DUI. DUI while the settler, the agent, and even the person, David Hall, was out on bond on 2 cases, 1 felony and 1 misdemeanor, for license suspended. So the court believes that the settler, the agent, the individual, and even the person, David Hall, represents a danger to the community because the settler, the agent, the individual, and even the person continues to drive without a valid driver's license, in fact, a suspended driver's license in the state of Florida. And so, that being said, the court is going to...
May I make a correction, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm traveling. You said that you used the term driving, and I was traveling, sir. Traveling.
Okay. All right. So the settler, the agent, the individual, or the person, David Hall, for traveling on a public highway or public road in the state of Florida, was allegedly doing so without a valid driver's license.
It's another big common sovereign argument. I'm not driving, I'm traveling. And they use that to try and say that they don't need to get a driver's license, license plate, insurance, registration, you name it. But because they're traveling, they don't have to get any of that stuff. And that's an argument that never works. Like, never works.
And has done it several times in the past. So today...
This is alleged, sir?
Yes, sir, it is alleged.
Allegedly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So today, the court's going to set your the settler, the agent, the individual's bond, and even the person's bond today on count 4 at $10,000 because the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person has not stopped driving even though the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person continues to drive without a driver's license. So, that being said, count 1 is $500, count 4 is $10,000, and the court will revoke the bond for the settler, the agent, the individual, and even the person of David Hall on 14-016-582-CF10 and 14-05-3909-TC30A. Both cases will cause the settler, the agent, the individual, and even the person, David Hall, not to be able to be released from the Broward County Jail until further notice of the court. So,
may I post bond, sir?
Well,
is there any other?
Are you asking me as the settler, the agent, the individual, or are you asking me as the person?
Sir, I'm asking as the individual appearing before you today about this matter.
Well, the individual, the settler, the agent, the individual, or the person can post the bond. However, the settler, the agent, or the individual, David Hall, will not be released in any event because this court is revoking the bond on a felony case and a misdemeanor case on the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person, David Hall.
Where is my remedy, sir?
Well, whose remedy are you asking for? The settler, the agent, the individual, or the person?
I'm asking for the opportunity.
Who are you speaking on behalf of right now?
Sir, I don't understand that question. I believe that you're trying to confuse me now.
No, I'm not.
I'm simply separating myself from the person. They are two different entities,
right,
and I know that.
The court is not viewing you as two different people. The court is viewing you as
why not,
entity
sir?
For the purpose of these cases.
Then what entity are you referring to me as?
Because I think you're referring to me as the David Hall, who's the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person.
I'm not the person, sir.
Okay, when
I am
you
not
see the
the
person,
person.
David Hall, tell him he's not leaving jail either, all right?
Sir, then may I ask what my remedy is? Can you provide me a remedy so that
Your
I
remedy
may...
is,
In all reality, I just saw in the comments, can Field McConnell get this judge? I think this might have happened in Broward County, Florida. Honestly, this judge might be a Broward County. You know what? Here. What is it? Is it John Hurley? Let's look and see. Hurley. Holy shit. This judge is Broward County. Judge John Hurley. Broward's colorful bond court. I didn't even see that it said Broward County. My bad, y'all. That's kind of awesome.
you don't really
Maybe Field
have a
McConnell
remedy
will
where
see
you could
him.
appeal it to the 4th District Court of Appeal.
How long am I going to be held, sir? I would
Until
like to
another
settle
judge
this matter.
tells you can be released.
I would like to settle this matter, sir.
We're not going to settle it today.
Then I'm being denied for the record, I'm being denied my remedy.
What do you
For the
think your
record,
remedy
my
is?
remedy is being denied. For the record, I am the real individual, and this action is under color of law, and I don't understand this color of law action.
Okay. Well, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Down the middle.
Nice day.
Let's roll.
Yeah, so again, that's this is how most sovereign situations end up. And you can look these videos up all damn day, but I just kind of use some as reference to show like directly what I was talking about, like that in action, because that is how that's exactly what he was talking about, the redemption theory / strawman theory of separating your strawman from your flesh and blood, which, as you just saw, is not something that the court is going to recognize. It's not something that the law is going to recognize. Many attempts have been made by sovereigns to access... Oh, actually here. A common belief is that sovereigns can access their strawman's secret trust and even use it to pay their debts. Sovereigns may also use a chargeback notice when responding to bills. The notice is meant to inform the bill collector the United States Treasury will pay the debt from the strawman account. Many attempts have been made by sovereigns to access their secret trust fund, yet nobody has ever succeeded. Sovereigns have a borderline obsession with the Uniform Commercial Code, which can be seen in their attempts to access the strawman trust funds. The UCC is a comprehensive set of laws that governs all commercial transactions in the United States. It is uniformly adopted state law, not federal law, which explains why it attracts those within the sovereign movement. According to the Uniform Law Commission, because the USS has been universally adopted, businesses can enter into contracts with confidence that the terms will be enforced in the same way by their own courts of every American jurisdiction. So the sovereigns really rely on UCC a lot because, again, they think everything is a contract in their life. They think criminal charges is a contract. They think CPS coming in is a contract that they never agreed to, which it's not. They even think that the affidavits, in the CPS movement, we've had some of these affidavits of truth and everything being used that allegedly get children home from CPS. No, affidavits aren't a contract. They're not something that you can't make a demand in an affidavit. It is believed by filing a UCC financing statement, they can establish a superior right to their strawman's treasury account. Once they have established their superior right, they can create bonds to pay off their debts. Sovereign misunderstanding of the UCC leads them to believe if the collector wrongly refuses to accept the payment, they no longer have the responsibility to pay the debt. As with every area of sovereign ideology, these UCC scams and schemes vary from group to group. Now, I've actually got a pretty good example of one of these here. But what that was basically saying is with like a lot of this financial and debt stuff, these guys will end up racking up a huge debt with somebody like credit card companies, something like that. And then they'll try and do this fraudulent UCC filing and basically say that the Treasury's paying for them. If they don't accept it, they're just like, oh, well, fuck all. I don't know what to tell you. That's my account. That's my account from the Treasury. So that'll take care of all my debt when obviously it doesn't. This case right here, this is actually a pretty important case. This case is important to sovereigns as a whole. This case is important to super extremist conspiracy theorists as a whole. This appeal was basically after these two, and we'll go through their case, but this appeal, the foundation of it basically equates to having crazy ass theories and refusing legal help and being found guilty. Like, after these guys were found guilty, they tried to cry to the judge that they never should have been able to represent themselves because they were showing signs of mental illness, but it didn't. So, and I actually found a video I really didn't expect to find from this, but so here, we'll go ahead and get into this. In September, and this was just last September, I believe. Where's it? I think it was last September. This is fairly recent. I know it was last year, but I think it was last September. But this case is actually pretty odd. In September, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against Randall Bean and Heather Tucci Giraffe, who were convicted of defunding the U.S. government for $31 million while trying to access their strawman account. According to court documents, Bean was an Air Force electrical engineer for years, but at some point he became convinced that the government was spying on the public, prompting a self-described quest into the world of conspiracy theories. Bean's research into different conspiracy theories eventually led him to the strawman theory, claiming you can tap into your secret trust fund and use them as a bodiless expense account by filing paperwork with the correct verbiage. At the time of stumbling upon the conspiracy, Bean owed more money than he could afford on his vehicle, credit cards, and 4 personal loans. While researching, Bean came across the work of Tucci Giraffe. Tucci Giraffe was a former lawyer who worked as a prosecutor and public defender. So remind you, there's even a former prosecutor, public defender that was involved in this one. She ran a website, posted videos, and contributed to online talk shows about the strawman conspiracy theory. Bean saw Tucci Giraffe as a visionary who could make a difference and reached out to her. Tucci Giraffe agreed to help Bean with his straw man. While browsing Facebook, Bean stumbled upon a video by an anonymous user going under the name Harvey Dent, the villain from Batman. The video claimed to show people how to access their secret trust fund account. In reality, the video taught them how to commit wire fraud by exploiting a deficiency in the automated clearinghome network that banks use to transfer funds. After telling Tucci Giraffe about the video, she gave her advice and directed him to potentially helpful documents. So, if you didn't get what that meant, these guys found a flaw in the banking system and basically exploited it, thinking that they were tapping into their own Treasury account, but in reality they were defrauding the federal government. Not a good idea. Not the best hobby to take up. Bean decided to try the idea and logged into his bank's website. He followed the video's instruction and entered his own social security number as his account number. For the routing number, Bean entered the routing number for the Federal Reserve. Bean then made fraudulent payments to pay off all his debts and then bragged about paying his debts with his trust account on Facebook. A few days later, Bean decided to start purchasing certificates of deposit with funding from the Federal Reserve and moral support from Tucci Giraffe. In just one night, Bean purchased $28 million worth of CDs. He would later increase that total to $31 billion before he started cashing out the CDs. Bean bought an $86,000 truck and a $500,000 motorhome that had 2 bathrooms, marble floors, and a fireplace. One of Bean's banks froze at one of his accounts after becoming suspicious of the sudden fortune. The bank also attempted to cancel payment on the truck and mobile home. Tucci Giraffe stepped in at that point and advised Bean on how to protect his truck and mobile home. Tucci how to protect his newfound assets by placing them in the name of a trust and preparing pseudo-legal documents on his behalf. She called the banks and dealership posing as Bean's attorney and reassured them he rightfully owned the money. Her phone calls worked, and the bank stopped cancellation on payments. By the time 2C Giraffe helped protect Bean's assets, it was already too late, though. A federal investigation had already begun. The federal officers learned Bean planned on driving off the dealership with his new mobile home, and they were there waiting for him. Bean refused to leave the motorhome and had to be removed. One of the other occupants was told to call 2C Giraffe on the phone. 2C Giraffe claimed that she was planning a military operation, and she was arrested later on in Washington, D.C., where she had gone after she contacted the Secret Service to request a meeting with President Donald Trump. Funny enough, I really didn't expect to find this. This is a video of that phone call, or at least one of the phone calls. This is what was going on when Randall Bean was being arrested.
Giraffe, Randy's lawyer, identify yourselves immediately. This is Heather Ann Tucci Giraffe, Randy Bean's lawyer. Identify yourselves immediately.
So it's basically...
Identify and state your authority immediately to me.
It's basically just this for like 14 minutes.
Just, honey, give it to him without prejudice. Just say under duress. And what agency or what law enforcement agency are they with? Honey, just go ahead. Give him your ID without prejudice. Say under duress. Here you go. They've already injured one being. Valerie, sign everything without prejudice. Ooh.
For some reason, it doesn't seem like the FBI was taking her serious as Randall Bean's attorney. I wonder why. But regardless, they both got taken into custody. Once they were arrested, the two began flooding the courts with frivolous sovereign motions. They asserted the United States courts could not hold anyone except by their own consent, and that the United States was a bankrupt corporation. They filed hundreds of pages of pointless UCC filings related to something called the One People's Public Trust. They demanded money from the government and at one point sent an itemized bill to the court seeking $46 quintillion. $46 quintillion for them being at court. Out of concern these actions would confuse a jury, the judge granted a motion that barred the two from conducting similar actions during a trial. Just an FYI, all of this is in that article, and all this can be found. This is what all of this shit is that I'm reading now. Both Bean and 2C Giraffe were requested to represent themselves. The judge held a hearing for both of them, ensuring they understood the risk of self-representation. They provided some unusual answers, but were determined to have knowingly and intelligently waived their right to counsel. Standby counsel was granted to take over in case the judge ended self-representation during the trial. The two defendants did their best at trial, despite cross-examining the government's witnesses, introducing evidence, testifying on their own behalf, and giving compelling closing statements justifying their worldview. The jury convicted Bean of bank and wired fraud, and both of them of money laundering. Bean was sentenced to 155 months in prison and ordered to pay over $500,000 in restitution. Tusi Giraffe was sentenced to 57 months in prison. Since their convictions, both tried to appeal by faulting the court for allowing them to represent themselves. If you've been following Arlena Willis at all, this is where some of that kind of comes into play. And with Arlena's mental evaluation and everything, a lot of people thinking that if she fails that, she won't go through. This is important. Again, this will be important with a lot of people's charges eventually, because this definitely sets a bar. Where was I? Bean and Tusi Giraffe argued that they gave odd answers to straightforward questions. When they were sworn in, they both replied with, "I am the source of all that is." Tusi Giraffe pointed towards her quibbles over meaningless turns of phrase, such as the difference between true and truthful, and the difference between pro se and pro per representation. So again, that goes back to like what Kirk Pendergrass does with the different words, like word, because word, W-O, whoa, W-O, it originates as whoa, and then you put it with R-D, word, whoa, rude. You see, that's the actual meaning. That weird shit that Kirk does, that's what this lady's literally talking about, is that the stuff Kirk does should have been used as a sign that she was mentally incompetent to represent herself. So everybody that like watches Kirk and Chris do their little word definition thing, this woman that is convicted in prison right now literally tried to use that as an example that she was mentally unstable and not able to represent herself in court. So I hope people really let that set in a little bit, because there's a lot of people that look to these guys for advice, and someone that was actually doing it is right here in the court of appeal saying, "No guys, I was fucking crazy. Could you not tell I was crazy?" Their arguments did not change that they listened carefully to the judge's questions and gave lucid answers. At no time did they demonstrate they misunderstood the questions or had any doubt over self-representation. Both defendants argued they should have received mental competency tests, but the appeal court did not agree. While they did spout off implausible conspiracy theories, they succeeded in the other blah 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 blah. They succeeded in other respects. During cross-examination, they asked logical questions aimed at exposing gaps in the witness's knowledge and inconsistencies in the prosecutor's narrative. Regardless of being correct, they were able to articulate their ideologies and clearly explained what led them to their actions. An experienced attorney, of course, would have done a better job, but that does not change the fact that both defendants showed they were competent. So this is the part that's important with the different theories and shit. At the end of the day, the appeal was a landmark in dealing with sovereign law. It raised the main question, were there idiosyncratic actions and unconventional beliefs enough to establish proof they were mentally unsound. The court determined the hard reality was that the values of the Sixth Amendment allow individuals charged with crimes to act in unorthodox ways, even if that compromises other values of the Sixth Amendment. In similar cases, the Supreme Court has never suggested an eccentric worldview establishes mental incompetence. The hard fact is that intelligent people, even very intelligent people, can believe baffling things, the decision read. Bean, Tusi Giraffe, and countless others who believe in strawman theories may be severely misguided, some dangerously so, but that does not necessarily mean they live in a private mental world devoid of all reality. The court affirmed both convictions. So, That's really important. That's really important because it is hard to remember that. Like, you see people practicing this stuff and you think, well, they're fucking crazy. Just because normal people, society, lawyers, judges, just because they think someone is fucking crazy, it doesn't change that the actual legal definition, the actual legal bar to be determined crazy is pretty high. So Arlena's done some outbursts in court, so she might have a little bit of a chance of being found mentally incompetent just because of her behavior. Again, there's a big difference between how Bean and Tukey Giraffe behaved. They actually presented themselves well. They talked, they listened, they responded. Arlena, kind of, from what her court documents say, she has outbursts a lot. She doesn't comply with the court. She's basically an overall nightmare. So Arlena, I don't know, maybe she can meet that that mental incompetent, but it is hard to actually get that. And then again, this kind of doubles over to a whole bunch of other sovereigns. If they were facing any charges, they can't go back later and try and argue that their basically ignorance of the law is an excuse for them doing what they're doing and then just have their case dismissed. It's not going to work like that. That's not going to flip over man, I just had a brain fart. Conviction. It's not going to break a conviction, or it's not going to flip a conviction if they basically say they didn't know what they were doing. Why'd you guys let me do that? I'm fucking crazy. That's not going to work. So I don't know. Let's see. On to the next here. Oh, and there was still Tucci, Giraffe, and Bean. There's still people that are like fighting for them or like arguing in their behalf, saying that they actually did tap into Bean's secret treasury account and they need to be let go because of that, and they were just shut down because of the government and blah blah blah. A sovereign citizen's greatest weapon is the endless floods of nonsensical paperwork. Their weapons of choice is filing liens against public servants they feel unjustly persecuted them. Liens are most commonly filed by individuals or businesses who are unable to collect a genuine debt. Liens can force a property to be sold to rectify a debt or prevent an owner from selling their property until the lien is settled. Removing a lien is not an easy process. It often requires attorneys and can take a year or longer to have it successfully discharged. In the interim, it can ruin a person's credit and has even pushed some into bankruptcy. The act of filing false documents is a crime in most states, but when they are filed against only when they are filed against a public servant as with a retaliatory intent. However, the majority of legal consequences for paper terrorism, the term used to describe the endless nonsensical documents filed by sovereigns, are reactive. Colorado, Mississippi, Ohio, Utah, and West Virginia have taken a proactive stance to battle paper terrorism by passing legislation that allows recording clerks or secretaries of the state to deny filings that appear fraudulent. Iowa, Nebraska, and North Dakota are allowed to reject filings when the person names themselves as the debtee and the debtor in an attempt to tap into their secret government trust account, otherwise known as the earlier mentioned redemption conspiracy theory. In Indiana, if a lien does not progress to a lawsuit within 30 days, they become null and void, and Florida, New Jersey, New York, and South Carolina have expansive laws covering a variety of offenses that include false liens, affidavits, invoices, valueless checks, mortgages, contracts, and other legal documents. Punishments can vary from no punitive element to civil damages that can be won in court to criminal charges. Financial penalties can range from $100 to $10,000 or greater in Louisiana. In Louisiana, whoever commits the crime of filing a false lien against a law enforcement officer or court officer shall be fined not less than $500 and no more than the amount of the value of the false lien or incumbents. With many sovereign filing liens in the billions or higher, Louisiana allows the court to fine a sovereign the same amount that they asked for. So basically, if they did one of these nonsense, like $500 billion lawsuits against the court in Louisiana will turn around and they could fine them up to $500 billion back for wasting the court's time. Florida, which has a high number of issues with sovereign citizens, is the only state that allows for prosecution of individuals that file false liens and financial records. And then I got some examples here of why, just some more examples. I guess we're not quite to the bad guys yet, because the few of these videos, it definitely gets a bit serious here in a minute. This guy on the screen behind me, though, this is Bruce Doucette. Bruce Doucette is currently in jail for a very long time. He's got another 36 years, I believe it is. Yeah, 36 years left to serve on his sentence. In 2018, Bruce Doucette was sentenced to 38 years in prison after being convicted of 34 felony counts related to his paper terrorism and sovereign teachings. Doucette gave himself the title of Superior Court Judge and traveled the country teaching others how to set up common law court operations. Doucette was a leader in drafting fake warrants for various elected officials, arrests, fraudulent subpoenas, and other nonsensical paperwork he and others would serve on different public offices. These documents were typically signed in red ink or included a bloody thumbprint. Doucette's crimes included racketeering, attempting to influence public servants, filing false legal documents, tax evasion, and retaliation against judges. Doucette represented himself in court. Before the hearing, the judge asked if it was okay for him to proceed. Doucette responded, "I do not consent and never have." Before he was told his sentence, Doucette told the judge, "As my witness, everything I did was done with honor and integrity to lawfully and peacefully remove the corruption from the government and from the courts. And may Yahweh have mercy on the souls when he judges you."
Thou shalt have no other God before me.
Right.
So now you're starting to get even a bigger picture of what this is about. And going back to what I said earlier, a lot of people think about that this is about power and about stealing.
So this is Mr. Doucette, by the way. We're not going to watch much of this because this is a 4-hour video that he did with a whole group of people. Which, man, yeah, I think that's...
First clue of what's going on right there. When you take that a little further and you look at the fact that everything that the government does...
Yeah, all right, whatever. They're crazy. They're going to talk about some crazy shit. One of the products of Doucette's nonsensical teachings was the Bears Law and Forensic Science Team. Which, by the way, Ronnie Davis said that he'd do a live phone call with me, and we're going to do that at some point. Davis pled guilty. Oh, sorry. So Bears Law. Bears Law was headed up by a sovereign citizen in Florida named Ronnie Lee Bear Davis. Davis pled guilty in Polk County, Florida, to battery and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon after he held a woman from Texas against her will at the Bears Law compound located on Appalachian Trail in Polk County. The woman claimed Davis tried to make her one of his wives and warned her the only way she was leaving the compound was in a body bag or on crutches. Before his arrest, Davis targeted parents who had open cases with Child Protective Services. Davis taught them nonsensical legal defenses and often showed off fraudulent legal documents with bloody thumbprints on social media. After serving his sentence, Davis still today claims to understand the true law of the country. I actually got...
Good day. I wanted to come down to find out when exactly... Just wait on these people to show up. They're supposed to be sending down a legal analyst to deal with us. The state attorney's office because they don't know how. Real easy. We're talking tomorrow is easy.
Somebody need to get some papers here?
Yes, sir. My name is Ronnie Davis. Law Forensic Science Team. Are
you Nathan?
Actually, I am the counsel of Nathan. I am, the state's picking up the charges on my brother. They don't have
We need the state's attorney, the
We
employment
let the judge know
identification
the
number of
state's
the
attorney.
W-9
It goes down
tax.
to Clearwater, it doesn't come here.
Oh, is the state attorney here?
No, the main office is in Clearwater.
Oh, okay, and do they have a boss there that we were supposed to speak to, sir? Because I gotta have a list of names of all the people that sent me someplace else, because I'm submitting a commercial lien, a bill of attainder, a bill of lading, and a...
Are you a licensed attorney here?
No such thing, sir.
So you're not an attorney?
No, sir, and I got
We're
11 judges.
legitimate law enforcement.
I got one judge in prison already because I don't...
Excuse me?
We're legitimate law enforcement officers.
They're
Are you certified by the state?
We don't have to be.
You're not
certified.
legitimate.
Actually, sir, I got one judge in prison. There's 11 judges in prison. Are
By
you
who?
recording this? I strongly suggest
By
that we
the
keep all
common
this...
law.
By the common law of what?
By the
That's right.
common law.
You're not, I don't recognize that, you're not a law enforcement
Your
officer.
name is, sir?
Okay,
Your
we'll
name
see
is?
about that.
Your name is?
You need to deal with Clearwater.
What?
Everything is down in Clearwater.
I got you. What's your name, sir?
Last name is Becker, B-A-R-R-Y.
All right, thank you
So
for
you
your
need to
professionalism. I
have-
appreciate
have a
that,
good
sir.
day.
You have a good day,
Down in
too.
Clearwater.
You ready, guys?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you very much.
As a for-profit and gain corporation, you have no jurisdiction and no legitimacy. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Schwer versus the Board of Bar Examiners.
Okay, they got it. They got it. Now we go to Clearwater and we submit another bill of attainder, a commercial lien, and a bill of affidavit. Anything that we can.
Name collecting here.
Elevator right here.
Yeah, let's just take a
court? The clerk of court's in the building, right?
Yeah.
The clerk of court is in the building.
That's why it's
downstairs around the corner?
Yeah.
There's another
Then that's where we'll go.
Yeah, that's where we have to get the EIN for the clerk.
That's where we'll go. Please don't prosecute it. We have one already in prison. Sovereign citizen can't have a sovereign. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. You can't be a Christian Satanist. You know? People in America's like the dumbest group of people on the face of the planet. Everybody in the world knows more about our law, more about our history, more about our rights, more about our stuff than anybody else there. They're all walking around stupid in an age of knowledge. You're walking around not knowing the difference between legal and lawful. Child support, sedition, racketeering, capital felony treason. No law whatsoever. You don't want to pay child support? You get in touch with us and watch how I fill a commercial lien, a bill of attainder, an affidavit of truth, a statement of facts, and their asses will run for their life and they'll never call you again. Because it's against the law to charge child support. Probation is against the law. Driver's license is sedition, racketeering. You can't take my free right to travel and turn it into a vested interest where I have to pay extortion fees for insurance, tax, registration. And a lot of people go, well, Little Bear, how do we maintain the roads of that? How do we maintain them for thousands of years before this criminal regime? Wake up, people. Pull your head up.
That's Ronnie. Okay, but this is where, so there's some like funny, haha, situations, but this does get a little bit darker, actually quite a bit darker. If you want to know, and this goes back to that argument of people saying that being a sovereign isn't a crime, filing all these nonsensical documents isn't a crime, which they are correct in some states. Not in all states. But where things get a little bit serious, this is why you're considered a domestic terrorist when you start practicing this shit. This is some of the darker sides of it. While it may seem like the worst thing that come from the sovereign movement is frivolous court documents, unfortunately there have been many fatal situations that have forced the FBI to label sovereigns as domestic terrorists. The worst crime related to a sovereign, and one of the worst in American history, began in April 1992 when a man wrote a letter to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources stating he was no longer a citizen of the corrupt political corporate state of Michigan and the United States of America. That man was Terry Nichols. If you, obviously, I would hope most people know who Terry Nichols is, but just in case, back then he was actually a racist and part of the Patriot movement, and he went on to be an accomplice to Timothy McVeigh when he killed 168 people in the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah federal building located in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which that was 1995. That's a little bit of video footage actually from, I believe, a few different areas. Dating as far back as 1988, Nichols' brother James Nichols had told an undercover FBI agent of plans to destroy a federal building with a mega bomb in Oklahoma City. Both James and Nichols were white supremacists and sovereign citizens. He would often refer to the neighbors as sheeple while speaking with the undercover agent that visited the Nichols farm frequently. In 1992, he was placed in jail after refusing to pay child support and telling a judge he did not recognize the court's authority. James would criticize the sheeple for using driver's license and social security cards. He routinely stamped U.S. currency with red ink in protest of the American government. James was detained concerning the bombing, but he was never charged, and he died back in 2017. Court records showed Nichols was sued several times in 1992 over credit card and other debts totaling almost $40,000. Nichols would often return bills from credit card companies with the words dishonored with due cause written across them. At one point, Nichols tried to submit his own certified fractional reverse check and argued with attorneys that his credit was as worthy as his credit back in U.S. currency. Both Nichols and McVeigh were fueled by the ending of the standoff in Waco, Texas in 1992 between the federal government and the Davidians. It was reported that McVeigh began to weep in Nichols' living room as they watched the standoff. Both were convicted in federal court. McVeigh was given the death penalty and executed in 2001. Nichols almost received the death penalty, but instead received life in prison. So that's a pretty big one. That is one of the reasons why sovereigns are declared domestic terrorists, because it was sovereigns. Timothy McVeigh wasn't a sovereign, but I just question on how much, just exactly how far Timothy McVeigh was in the sovereign citizen movement. Obviously, Nichols and his brother James, they were super involved. That means, to some extent, Timothy McVeigh definitely, probably at least heard these arguments out, if he didn't agree with a good chunk of them. The next up is Jerry and Joe Kane. These two little assholes. You know what? Maybe I'll actually use this, because I kind of got to take a little a pee. So yeah, let me introduce you to this, and then I'm going to let this video go, and I'm going to pee real quick. On May 20th, 2010, a routine traffic stop in Arkansas ended with the death of two officers after a father-son pair of sovereign citizens opened fire during the stop. Jerry Kane and his son Joe were later killed in a Walmart parking lot after a short-lived pursuit. The two had been traveling the country giving seminars where Kane would speak and teach anybody willing to listen. In a video of one of Kane's seminars, he instructs people to look at the legal term, not the slang. Kane was one of many that insists that the roots of legal language reveal a hidden meaning. Once again, Kurt Pendergrass. It keeps on going back to that it's Kirk Pendergrass. Like, he's one of the people I just kept on thinking of, especially with these different legal definitions and words and all this hogwash that they try and do all the time over there. But so listen to it, because I think here in a minute, Jerry Kane here starts doing this.
We can't tap the account on our own.
Says who? Yeah. You go to the grocery store and you use promissory notes all day long to buy bread, don't you?
Yeah.
So you are tapping an account. Have you ever entered into a debt contract to purchase an automobile or go to school or buy a hunting license?
But again, those are all going back to the central transfer agent.
But it's not the full disclosure.
We're not actually tapping it. They are for our benefit.
At our instruction. That's what
Correct.
It comes down to here.
That's correct.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Is it's our instructions. There's no requirement. That's the point.
Okay.
You coming at it from the debt side of the ledger, in that we have to do it because they're the only ones that can, and I'm saying no, we don't have to do it because here we're doing it.
Well, we're lacking the education on
Exactly.
how to do it.
Because people were taught that 100 pennies is $1, and 10 pennies is a dime, and 10 dimes is $1. No, a dollar is a unit of measurement. If I say to you, give me a pound, what would you say?
On a what?
What?
I say, give me a gallon.
What?
So I say, give me a dollar.
What?
It's a unit of measurement. 371.25 grains of 0.905 silver. There is no money. Silver and gold.
They call it lawful money.
Well, they call it legal tender.
Yeah, they call it.
They call it legal tender. That's what they call it.
Okay.
Oh, we got more people? Hi. SEIZE. Lawfully seized of the property. Right. Yeah, this is out of 4th edition Black's Law Dictionary. Seize, to put in possession, invest with fee simple, be seized in or of or in, be legal possessor of, or be holder in fee simple. So here you come in with your realtor, you just made an offer on the house, they accepted the offer, and you go in there and you tell them you're lawfully seized the property. Which is a lie, you're not. Because if you were lawfully seized the property, then like I said, why are you in here borrowing money?
Let alone why you're in foreclosure.
Right, exactly. So, back here to this deed of trust. See, this one's a little bit different. Borrower. This is borrower is Jane Doe. Most of them say borrower means Jane Doe, which once again is just a definition. The fact that the word is in quotation marks, that also brings attention to it, that there's something different about this term that's being defined, that it's special. It's in quotation marks. And lender, of course, we know what lender is. That's just the agent. Trustee is a public trustee of whatever. And note means the promissory note signed by borrower and dated, whatever. Property means the property that is described below it, or the heading transfer of rights to the property. So we go down to transfer and rights to the property. The security instrument secures to lender the repayment of the loan and all renewals, extensions, and modifications of the note, and the performance of the borrower's covenants and agreements under the security instrument and the note. For this purpose, borrower, in consideration of the debt and the trust herein created, irrevocably grants and conveys to trustee in trust with power of sale the following described property located in the county of. So here they're starting out by telling you that the security instrument secures repayment of the loan and all renewals, extensions, and modifications. That's going to come in very handy later on in our process. Just keep in mind that term, modifications. They take it with all modifications. Sometimes it'll say that in the deed of trust. Sometimes it'll say this deed of trust and all modifications are assignable. They say it different ways, but it's all the same basic point. And that's modification, so keep that in mind.
It's innovation here, Dean. It's innovation.
Yep. Okay. Somebody have their hand up? Oh. Okay. Now, when you give them in the note, you give them permission to sell the note. Yes.
Are you going to give us a copy of what you're reading from, or what?
No, this is just a deed of trust.
Oh, okay.
From one of the people here in the room.
Okay, got it.
It's just a deed of trust.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I read here. Irrevocably grants the trustee in trust. Irrevocably grants and conveys to trustee in trust the power of sale the following described
I was muted for that whole thing, wasn't I? Man, that is some horse shit. That is some horse shit. Oh, well. Okay. So, let's go back over all that. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me when I use my little mic? Hello? Hello, this is Freedom Public Press. And I figured out that I had my mic turned off, so I fixed that. Okay. Let's just go back over that again. So what you're watching is, and luckily there's time in this video, but you're watching these two get pulled over. What do we got? About 6 minutes. I think I can do this in 6 minutes. Maybe we'll start this just a little bit back. So the weeks leading, and this is the same traffic stop. This is a dude that we were just watching in the white suit talk about how you can get out of being broke, basically. The weeks leading up to the deadly traffic stop had been trying for Kane. He and Joe, his 16-year-old son, had been traveling the country and conducting seminars for those financially struggling that promised to teach them tools to avoid foreclosure, which right away I think of Mitch Smith right there. People that watched Mitch Smith, his whole thing started from foreclosure, bankruptcy, and different financial issues. Tickets to his seminar ranged from $100 to $300 per man, but Kane was known for allowing those who could not afford it to attend for free. Kane and Joe were on their way to Florida following a 2-day seminar attended by only 6 people in Las Vegas. Before that, Kane had a seminar in Denver that nobody attended. In his last online radio show, he expressed his frustration with the seminar circuit and announced he planned to cut his scheduled tour short after one last stop in Florida. Along with the stress of the failing scam. Sorry, it's just in my blood to say that. Along with the stress of his failing seminars, Kane was risking more than he was gaining just by driving across the country in his Plymouth Voyager. As a sovereign and a member of the larger anti-government patriot movement, Kane believed that he was a free man with the constitutional right to travel without restriction. He had no driver's license. His van was registered to a ministry in Ohio. He had a brick of marijuana in the vehicle and several outstanding warrants for forgery and theft by deception. Just weeks before the shooting, he was arrested in New Mexico for driving without a license and concealing his identity. Kane had prepped documents to file against the arresting officer in New Mexico and vowed revenge against him and his family. Kane and Joe were on their way to Florida to start a new life. He had met a woman named Donna Lee Ray Kane, which remember Donna Lee Ray Kane. Donna Lee comes back up here in just a minute. While driving on I-40, the father and son were stopped by West Memphis officer Brandon Pottert and Bill Evans near mile marker 275. During the stop, dashcam video shows Kane stood in front of the police SUV and argued with police while Joe remained in the vehicle. The argument got physical and Kane pushed Evans into a roadside ditch. This is when 16-year-old Joe hopped out of the vehicle. Remind you, a 16-year-old. This is his 16-year-old kid that he'd been pumping all this crazy shit into. That is when 16-year-old Joe hopped out of the vehicle armed with an AK-47 and opened fire. After killing Evans, Joe turned his attention to Potter, who was taking cover behind the police vehicle. Potter was able to fire his service weapon several times, but he was simply outgunned by the teen. Joe chased Potter around the vehicle and shot him in the back of the head several times. He then returned to Evans in the ditch and fired again before he and Kane got back into the vehicle and sped away. This is actually that stop. We'll go ahead and fast forward it. Right here is where the 16-year-old actually hopped out with the AK-47 and murdered 2 officers. So from there, they basically went to Walmart. They were pinned in, and they actually shot and wounded several other officers during the standoff. Evans was shot a total of 14 times. Actually, here, yeah, we'll just run through that. Kane's van was later spotted at a country club asking for directions to Walmart. Security tapes showed that Joe entered the store and made a purchase. The van remained in the parking lot where it was spotted by an Arkansas wildlife officer who rammed their vehicle to keep them from leaving. A shootout erupted, and 2 more officers were injured by the Kanes before they were killed. One officer was shot in the shoulder. Another was shot multiple times in the abdomen, but both officers did survive. The Kanes were not the only father-son, which this is pretty sad. The West Memphis police chief was Bob Potter. So he was actually the father of the officer that was shot in the back of the head multiple times behind the police car. So he actually went out there and had to deal with that. But so the Kanes were killed in a parking lot. Now, why I said to remember Donna, oh, sweet Donna. Donna actually filed a lawsuit on behalf of her murdered husband and stepson. And the lawsuit's pretty good. Surprisingly, Ray Kane would later try to sue the West Memphis Police Department for the deaths of her husband and stepson. Ray Kane filed the lawsuit in Florida District Court and claimed the deaths were torture killings and civil rights violations. She asked for $75,000 for each death to be paid in gold at $38 per troy ounce. Ray Kane attempted to sue for 3 counts of violation of due process, arbitrary arrest and detention, and torture killings. Ray Kane demonstrated her own belief in the sovereign movement by citing the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention Against Torture, and the UN's Charter. She also cited Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10 of the Constitution, which gives Congress the power to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of the nation. Law of nations. So she apparently randomly threw in something to do with the fucking ocean on this lawsuit where she claimed that the police unjustly killed her husband and stepson after her stepson got out of the vehicle and shot 2 cops with an AK-47. But Ray Kane had a reason behind this, because it turned out that this child did not actually shoot 2 officers. And if people just paid attention and were smarter, they would actually know that. But luckily, Donna Lee Ray Kane has some connections that were helping her. Ray Kane told Fox 13 that Kane and Joe did not kill anybody. Instead, she claimed that federal snipers opened fire on the officers and the Kanes. She claimed, "We have reports from people who've seen the video from Russia that shows Jerry and Joe and the officers were fired upon by federal snipers." Ray Kane did not appear on camera, but she did speak to Fox 13 through several phone calls as they sat in front of her house. She then called the police on them, claiming they could not sit out front of her house. She also told officers she was armed. Officers told Ray Kane they could legally sit out front, but they warned Fox 13 it'd probably be best to move for their safety, and they did. We actually have a little clip from that, too.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Merle Purvis. Here's our top story tonight. The woman who claims she is the widow of one of the 2 men suspected of killing 2 police officers is crying conspiracy. She can see Russia somehow involved in the suspect's death and a cover-up over how the men actually died. Fox 13's Lauren Lee joins us live from Tampa Bay, Florida, with the story. Hey, Lauren, what's going on?
Hey, Merle. Well, we've spent a lot of time on the phone with Donna Ray in the short time we've been here in Florida. She's offered us conspiracy theories on what really happened that day in West Memphis. She's questioned the findings of the police and even called the police on us. This is the house of Donna Ray, the widow of Jerry Kane and stepmother to Joe Kane. The same house where the two accused cop killers spent their last 3 months. When we walked to the door, we were immediately told to get off the property. But shortly after, Ray called my cell phone. I was wondering if it'd be okay. We talked a number of times. Although Ray didn't want to go on camera, she did answer our questions about her husband and stepson on the phone. That is, until she got tired of the questioning, and then she called the police. Hi. Are you here for us?
Yeah, we are.
More on that in a minute. First, what she had to say about what could have possibly led her husband Jerry and son Joe to open fire on West Memphis officers Brandon Powdard and Bill Evans. The following are her exact words. The information that we're getting is there were federal snipers, that Jerry and Joe didn't kill anybody. We have reports from people who have seen video from Russia that shows that Jerry and Joe and the officers were fired upon by federal snipers. So why do you think that federal snipers would be, were they after Jerry and Joe? She said Jerry was very dangerous because he was helping people to complete their contracts, the agreement they had with their mortgages and deeds of trust, and he's helped people with almost 200. Fox 13 found conspiracy theory websites that are circulating the idea that Jerry and Joe Kane were ordered to be assassinated by officials with President Barack Obama's administration, causing his top spy chief to quit. Meanwhile, neighbors of Ray say they are not surprised. They have been dealing with what they call her bizarre behavior the 8 years she's lived on Madison Street. Carrie Clark even had a run-in with Ray a couple of years ago.
She didn't appreciate me not pulling out into traffic quick enough for her, so she proceeded to use profanity and flip me off and a lot of hand gestures.
Other neighbors reported similar altercations, but many said they would not go on camera because they were afraid of Ray. Those who did speak to us used caution. Did you ever have any problems with them or anything like that?
No, not really.
Neighbors say Ray had several failed businesses in town, including a psychic reader, a body wrap boutique, and a notary.
1 week she's driving a Corvette, the next week she's driving a bicycle with a motor on it.
Neighbors say the house is always unkept and at risk of being condemned by the city. Many neighbors had assumed Joe and Jerry were friends from the Church of Scientology, just there to help clean up the house. They say Ray is or was a Scientologist. But neighbors say they didn't know that Jerry Kane was actually Ray's husband.
The guys in the van, I don't know the situation, but there's the couple guys in the van have only been around a couple months that I've seen them consistently. And they'll come over and clear the yard occasionally when it gets so high that the city gets called.
Federal investigators are said to have been going door to door Monday morning asking questions about Joe and Jerry.
It was the FBI, the Clearwater Police Department, and the Coast Guard. I think they were some sort of Coast Guard investigation unit.
They showed me a picture of each of the suspects, I guess, or the accused in the shootings, and asked me if I recognized either one of them.
We're now set up down the street from Donna Ray's home. After talking to us on the phone a couple of times, she called 911 and told police she was armed. She said we did not have the right to be on the sidewalk in front of her house, although police told her we did have that right. Still, officers recommended that we move for our own safety. We decided to take their advice. Neighbors also went inside after police left the area. They were already on edge after learning 2 accused cop killers had been living just down the street.
It's not good to hear that, especially with as close as they are and knowing how many kids we have running around. It's definitely not a good thing to hear.
That sign you just saw posted on Donna Ray's door said she would be releasing a press release sometime while we were there. That sign went up while we were there. So far, we haven't seen any sign of that press release. We want to know what you think about Donna Ray's comments. Let us know at myfoxmemphis.com. Reporting live at Fox Tampa Bay, Lauren Lee, Fox 13 News.
I think her theory was more reported because of just the pure insanity of it. But then that's just one of many. There's a long list, and again, this is just showing why it is considered domestic, or that why sovereigns are even considered domestic terrorism group. I guess we can run through. Yeah, we're actually just about done. We'll run through the other ones. There's a couple of these I couldn't really find too much on, but we'll go ahead and run through all of them. Since the 2010 shooting involving Kane and his son, sovereigns have been responsible for the deaths of multiple officers. On August 16, 2012, in LaPlace, Louisiana, Terry Smith and his two sons, Brian and Derek, and family friend Kyle Jokel were pulled over by Sheriff's Deputy Michael Scott Boyington. Smith was driving and decided to not stop. As Boyington was pursuing the vehicle, someone inside the vehicle opened fire with an AK-47 and hit the deputy multiple times. The suspects drove to a mobile home park where deputies Brandon Nielsen, Jeremy Trichet, and Jason Trichet picked up the pursuit. Upon arriving, the officers found Jokel outside and detained him. The deputies were questioning two other men when a third suspect opened fire from the trailer door. Another suspect began firing and shot Smith's wife, who had thrown herself over an officer in an attempt to protect him. Nielsen and Trichet both died from their wounds. Jason was shot in the back but survived after spending months in medically induced coma and receiving 29 surgeries. He had to receive a kidney transplant, which was donated by St. Tammany Parish Deputy Andre Ardenu. I don't think I said that last name right. Boynton also survived the shooting. Brian and Jokel were both wounded and charged with first-degree murder. Smith was charged with principal to attempt first-degree murder. Derek, who was in the car during the initial shooting but not involved in the mobile home shootout, pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Court documents showed that Smith's connection to the sovereign citizen movement dated back to at least 2009 when he filed a complaint against St. John Deputy Nicholas Silverstreet. Silverstreet had pulled Smith over months before. He filed the complaint and arrested him. Smith claimed he was detained and arrested without cause. Smith refused to provide a driver's license during the stop. In his complaint, Smith wrote, I advised him that I was a sovereign citizen invoking my constitutional rights and that it appeared he was holding me against my will. Smith was taken to the Paris jail where officers learned his license was suspended. He was ticketed for violating obedience to police officers and driving on a suspended license. A warrant was issued for Smith's arrest after he failed to appear in court to prove he paid his $143 fine, and a grand jury declined to file charges from Smith's criminal complaint against Silverstreet. Let me see. On September 4th, 2012, California Highway Patrol Officer Kenyon Youngstrom was shot and killed by Christopher Boone Lacey during a traffic stop on Highway 680 near Alamo, California. Youngstrom stopped Lacey for having an obstructed license plate. Both Youngstrom and Lacey were shot and later pronounced dead at John Muir Medical Center at Walnut Creek. Upon investigation, Lacey's family members said that he had become a loner and moved to Corning, California. Police found a suicide note that was believed to have been written during a mental breakdown while Lacey was attending college in 1997. He was then diagnosed with bipolar disorder. 6 of his computers revealed a strong interest in the sovereign citizen movement and libertarianism. Lacey was also a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. Lacey had a wish list that included a solar panel, water filter, sleeping bags, pond fence, and a bulletproof vest. He had also been visiting websites about creating explosives. In 2006, Lacey was suspected of drunk driving on a motorcycle in Sausalito. During that incident, Lacey refused to speak to the officer and handed him a Bill of Rights card instead of a driver's license. Now this next one's a little fucked off. Jared and Amanda Miller, which, you know what? I wonder. I think there was actually some other videos of him, quite possibly. But so many of them got removed. These two... These two were somebody interesting. Okay, maybe not. At the very least, I got this pulled up. So, Again, all of this is in the article in the description, so you can go look at some of this stuff. If you want to go back and see who some of these people were, you can find them. I'm basically going through this in the order of the article, so you guys can totally follow along. One of the more shocking sovereign attacks occurred on June 8th, 2014, when Jared Miller and his wife Amanda Miller decided to gun down 2 officers in a CC's Pizza in Las Vegas. The couple was known for spouting racist anti-government views and bragging about their gun collection. On Facebook and on YouTube, Miller openly ranted against the government. "We can prepare for peace. We must, however, prepare for war," Miller wrote on Facebook just a week before the shooting. The couple also bragged about being at the Bundy standoff. They were actually asked to leave by the Bundys for being, quote-unquote, too radical. The couple spent the morning of June 8th hunting for police officers to kill, as they believed police officers were their oppressors. They were wearing adult diapers and armed with 4 handguns and a shotgun. Hours into their hunt, they spotted Las Vegas Metro police officers Igor Soldo and Alan Beck having lunch at the pizza buffet restaurant. The couple walked inside and shot the 2 officers without warning. They then draped Nazi swastikas and "Don't Tread on Me" flags on top of the bodies and a note that read, "This is the start of the revolution," over both officers. Yeah, these 2 were pretty fucked up. The couple left the restaurant and entered a nearby Walmart. The 2 were pacing the aisles before killing a bystander who attempted to stop them. Once police arrived, the couple got in a shootout. Security footage shows the couple laying on the ground, pointing guns at each other as law enforcement surrounded them. Security footage shows the couple... wait, hold on. I got lost there. Amanda fires 1 shot at Miller, who then goes still. She then turns the gun on herself, which ended the standoff. And this is actually that footage. So obviously that appears to be Jared in the back there, and then Amanda. So yeah, after killing 2 cops at lunch in a Las Vegas CC's Pizza, they went into Walmart, killed a random person in Walmart, then laid on the ground, and Amanda killed Jared and then killed herself. Again, they were even asked to leave the Bundy standoff. Strong sovereign police. I mean, this is why people are considered to be possible domestic terrorists if they do go through with this sovereign citizen nonsense. So now you're not going to get arrested for just filing those documents, but this is why you are going to be watched. This is why you're going to be questioned of your mental stability, because of the connection to this group. And there's no way around that. Not to mention that the legal practices don't work. Like they literally don't work. There's another good example of let me see. Did I not? There we go. That's what I want. Let me see. How long is... I think that this is long enough for us to do that. Okay. There we go. So here is yet another reason that sovereign citizens are considered to be domestic terrorists. And this is actually a different little like subculture almost of sovereign citizens. Gavin Long. Following the shooting of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on July 5th, 2017, tensions between the African American community and the police were at an all-time high. The shooting spawned heavy protests in the streets, and as things were somewhat starting to calm down, 29-year-old Gavin Long was about to make things even worse. Long was a discharged Marine and a member of the Washita Nation, an African-American sovereign group that claims their ancestors were indigenous to America. The Washita claims the majority of the land sold in the Louisiana Purchase belongs to them. Despite there being no evidence to support their claim, the Washita demand the land is returned to them. So Long had rented a vehicle. He was driving. Actually, wait. God, what time? 2:49. Yeah, that explains it. Long had rented the vehicle he was driving and left a suicide note inside it. He wrote that he needed to bring destruction upon bad cops as well as good cops due to the justice system's failure to prosecute bad police officers. He followed events that dominated national news, such as the shooting of Sterling and the July 7th killing of 5 police officers in Dallas by Micaiah Xavier Johnson. Johnson was angered by the Sterling shooting and police shooting of Philandro Castle in Minnesota. Online, Long went by the name Cosmo Setepinra. I'm not saying that right. On July 10th, Long posted a video saying he was in Dallas. Long talked about the recent protests and officer-involved shootings. He encouraged victims to stop protesting and start fighting back with brute force. And this is actually... that's the shooting you're watching there, but this is the video.
I'm in Dallas right now, in the streets, on my book tour, on another book tour, giving the knowledge out to my people. And I had already decided that I was coming to Dallas before the even, police shooting already happened. So I was already decided. So I don't know. I guess it's just, the spiritual was just telling me it was the right place to come before. But before the police shooting occurred, I had already made the decision to be here. But right now I'm in these streets, and I just want to speak on the events that's going on right now and just some of the principles that I've already spoken about, and I'm going to relate them to right now what's going on. First, I want to let you guys look, you got to really look at certain things, because say for instance the holiday that just passed, Independence Day. Independence Day is really based on, say, George Washington and the Americans fighting against their oppressor, Britain. And we celebrate that. We tell them they're right. You get it? But when an African fights back, it's wrong. But every time a European fights back against his oppressor, he's right. But soon as an African tries to fight back, why is that? So we got to start questioning our mindset. Are our thoughts our own thoughts? Because it doesn't even make sense, the shit we thinking about. You feel me? You got to really question your thoughts, because you saying one person is right, but then you saying another person is wrong for doing the same exact fucking thing. In fact, we celebrate it and make holidays about it. It doesn't make sense. Question your thoughts. Question everything you are thinking.
So yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of where Long's head was. On July 12th, Long left for Baton Rouge. Police would later say they found alcohol and methamphetamine in his system. On July 17th, armed with an IWI Taver rifle, Long parked his car outside a beauty supply store and walked out with his rifle. He checked an unoccupied police car outside a nearby Be Quick convenience store. Long then returned to his car and drove away. A citizen went into the Be Quick and told Baton Rouge police officer Matthew Gerald, who was in the checkout line, there was a man outside with a rifle. Baton Rouge Sheriff's Deputy Brad Garafola was inside the store with Gerald. The two went outside to look for Long and called for backup. Officer Montreal Jackson responded as he was at a car wash next door. The three officers walked around the store looking for Long. Long drove back to the area and parked his vehicle, then began walking towards the store. Long caught up with the officers and fatally shot Jackson and Gerald. He would also kill Garafola as he tried to get to Gerald to help him. In total, Long fired 43 shots. Along with the three officers he killed, Long also injured officers Chad Montgomery and Bruce Simmons and East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Deputy Nick Tollier. Tollier was shot in the head and the abdomen and remained in a coma for 4 months before he was transferred to a rehabilitation facility located in Houston, Texas. SWAT officers arrived on the scene and managed to wound Long in the leg. While he was on the ground, Long tried to reach for the rifle, at which point 5 SWAT officers opened fire. The responding officers fired a total of 106 times, striking Long 45 times. And really, for the most part, that I think about sums this up tonight. Really, the last only thing is that all of these ideologies, they're normally placed now around scams. And that's what we're seeing in CPS movement. But again, this isn't even just towards the CPS sovereign scam artists that we've been following. This is just in general because it is a much larger growing problem and they are involved in so many different avenues. It's not specific to CPS. It's not specific to gun rights. It's not specific to any rights. What it is they target people that are broken down by the broken country. People that are in financial debt, people that are facing criminal persecution, people that are facing civil persecution. These sovereign scammers, these teachers, travel the country and go online hunting for these people that are desperate for help and then charge them money for their nonsensical bullshit help. That's what you're seeing with David Straight. That's what you're seeing with Kirk and them. That's what you're seeing with all of them. Like any sovereign movement, no matter what the base of it is, CPS, criminal, financial, at the root of it, you're going to find these sort of beliefs. And you're going to find some sort of scam artists, unless they are just totally nuts. Like Mitch Smith, I don't think asks for anything ever. He's just nuts and thinks that he's going to do all this stuff. But according to the appeal court, it does not look like even Mitch would be legally nuts, because there are things that he still understands. He doesn't live in a completely delusional world. He dresses himself. He puts arguments up for his ideology. He listens to other people's retorts. I mean, those are problems with trying to say that any of these people are actually mentally ill, just because of the fact that America does set the bar so high and offers so little once it does come to somebody being mentally ill. So unfortunately, if you do end up falling for some of these sovereign scams, you get wrapped up with these people, you likely are going to be on some sort of watch list from the federal government. It most likely is not going to help your case on any level whatsoever. You can Google it, and I'm actually on the YouTube channel. I'm going to put together a sovereign playlist with just a bunch of different traffic stops, shit like that. And I will throw that together on this channel over these next few days probably. And that'll probably be an ongoing playlist that I add to. But I'll put that together, and then this article that I put together tonight will be in the description of all those. So you can go, but currently you can go look for yourself. There's already plenty of videos out there of court situations, police situations, sovereign law trying to be practiced and being shut down. So at best, if you listen to any of these crazy people, at best, you're going to get a mental evaluation that you'll probably pass. I don't really know what the best case scenario is, because there isn't a lot of good ones. You're not going to win your legal situation. You're not going to win your financial situation. At best, you might only pay a little bit of money to, I don't even know, to these scam artists. You're gonna be robbed out of a little bit of money instead of a lot of bit of money. I don't know. There's not really a lot of good things that come from this overall. I can't think of a lot of good things. I really can't think of a lot of good scenarios to try and say that could come from this. Like I said, at best you'll lose some money, and you'll still lose your legal situation or financial situation. So that's a general summary on the sovereign movement. So now, in the future, whenever we talk about any of these guys and anybody has a question on that, I now have an article and I now have a video to refer you to, so you can get caught up and have a pretty basic understanding of why and how the sovereign community does what they do. There's really not a good reason for it. So, I don't know. It is fun, though. Be sure, if you do look through the article, if you rewatch the video or whatever, just think about some of the other people, if you have been following, like Fran and Kirk and all those people. Just kind of read about some of the beliefs, and then think about when it applies to these different people, because it happens way too common. To anybody that might take sovereign advice on any, I just strongly suggest you research first, like financial issues, criminal issues, CPS cases. these are important. They can affect your life forever. They can do a lot of damage. These people can do a lot of different damages. What about the call-in? Shit, do we want to do the call-in? Man, it's 3 a.m. Okay, let me see here. Shit, I have to remember what I set it up through. We can throw it up for a minute. We'll see if anybody calls in. What did I put that under? There it is. Okay. And actually, you know what? We'll just keep that playing in the background. Let me go copy something real quick, though. Okay, let's try it. So that's up to you guys. I'll leave this up. I'll leave this stream going for a minute longer then. Oh, that's not even the screen that I wanted on though. So here, hold on, I'm putting that right back up. There we go. Now I think I have everything set up over here. If anybody does try to call in, just let me know if you weren't able to get through. I think everything's good to go though. No. Web. All right. Let's see how this goes. Are you there?
I'm right here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, you know, just sitting here smoking a joint and enjoying the night, dude.
Let me turn you up just a little.
All right, figure it out, dude.
Okay, I think that's about as loud as I can get you.
That's all right, dude. It's to be honest with you, when I watch your lives, dude, it's like it's a volume battle, dude. Like fucking, I have to turn it up when you're talking, and I turn it down when you're playing your video clips of, like, especially Fran or Dade.
It's because they're like, so loud and they don't know what they're doing.
I know, dude. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It's like I'm cruising down the road trying to listen to this shit, and fucking I gotta turn it up when fucking you're talking, and I gotta turn it down when fucking whoever's talking. It's annoying as fuck, dude.
Well, Fran does scream into a cell phone from like 2 feet away.
Dude, so. It's like, I don't know what to say, dude. It's like it's the one woman that I would actually fucking punch square in the face. That's all I gotta say. You know?
Well, this is good that I know that the call-in definitely works.
It definitely works, bro. It's working good because I'm watching it on my tablet right now also, and the timing's off by about 10 seconds, whatever. But
well, and this works with Ronnie Davis too, because Ronnie Davis apparently has some troubles with trying to do Skype or anything. But
well, it's the government, dude. The government, dude.
Well,
it's all the government. You know.
But, which, you know, and that even reminds me, I'm blocked on my other personal account, so I actually haven't been able to get this Ronnie thing set up. I did see that he was tagged here earlier, though. Maybe he'll Hulk out here. I'm gonna go add him on my other account.
Dude, he's always a fun one to invite, dude. Anytime Rodney Davis enters the room, dude, it's like, holy shit. We're all a bunch of scum, fucking anti, whatever fucking bullshit.
Oh, he denied my friend request on this account.
Oh, well, I'll invite you then.
That's sad.
How's that sound?
I can't even send him a new friend request on this account.
I'll see if I can invite you to his bullshit.
Or maybe message him or something and tell him to come to my other account. I'm sure he'll be in these comment threads tomorrow.
Miko's your friend.
He's gonna be. I imagine because I showed that video and talked about his arrest and conviction, he's gonna be in these comments tomorrow, all sorts of hot and bothered.
Yeah. All right, brother. I just wanted to help you out with your phone call thing here, and I'm glad I made it through.
No, I appreciate it. I'm glad to know that it works. So you have yourself a good night.
Love you, man. You have a good night, too.
Aight.
Later.
So that's cool. It looks like the phone thing does work. I hear you both very well, or really well. Good. I'm glad. I thought maybe that would work. Let's do it radio style. Hello, caller.
Mr. Hayes, I've been saying I've been wanting to speak to you for a while now, but, I've been waiting for you to put the number up on the screen.
It's finally happened. That day is
finally I know, man. I know. And, hey, I don't know. This is CJ Abernathy. And I had to ask you, Miko, you went to Standing Rock. Did we ever meet there?
I do not believe so.
I'd heard of your work out there, and I think you met Cash Jackson out there once, right?
Cash, yeah. I did see Cash out there. But I'd known Cash before that. That's how we even saw each other out there.
I know. That's how he had mentioned you to me. He's the first person that said, "Have you ever heard of Miko Hayes?" And I said, "Who is Miko Hayes?" He said, "He's out here at Standing Rock." I said, "Oh, okay." And then I've been kind of watching your stuff since then, and I just gotta say, I really love how you've evolved your platform and how you deal with all the nonsense of the internet. I do something called Internet Warlords, and it started off basically being, just me wanting to talk to all the awesome people I could find on the internet, and kind of just giving my thoughts on what I see in the world. And then I started getting run-ins with some of the names that you have been getting run-ins with. In fact, I've been tagged in several posts next to your name, and people think all kinds of weird shit, but, it's the internet, so what do you expect, right? So, Francisca Amato Banfield is a name you bring up a lot.
Funny enough, CJ, Nathan Abernathy, that's over in the Facebook comments, is often accused of being CJ Abernathy.
That's funny. Nathan and I've kind of said hello, what's up to you, and he says what's up back, and it's just like, they think that for whatever dumb reason that two people can't have, and they're not even spelt the same way. I have EY, he has Y. It's just like, you guys are that stupid, but okay. I mean, so but I gotta say, I ran into Francisca Amato Banfield a long time back, and she wanted to interview me for her Punished for Being a Parent, or P for P. And something didn't seem right with a lot of what she was doing back then, and I started saying, hey, this woman is a fraud. Well, what she did is she took one of her affidavits that she thinks is law and submitted it to my sheriff out here. And that same day she submitted that to him, I was going in there to get my concealed carry permit So she's saying I'm a dangerous person who's killed people in war and have witnessed people being killed. And she then says, under penalty of felony perjury, that I killed people like that. So in her world, under law, I killed people. And then that went all the way from that to my district attorney to my attorney general, who was running for governor at that time. And so what ended up happening is I ended up running for governor against the attorney general. And, you know, it's just funny how she just embedded herself into my case. It was just weird how one email she sent off with producer, writer, blogger Francisca Amato Banfield accuses me of killing people in an affidavit. Like, it got pretty far. So they can get pretty far into messing with anybody. I said they target high-profile cases to exploit them for any financial gain they can. And anybody that goes against them is a troll, a fraud, block, scam. Immediately ostracized. But, I mean, if you're being shunned by Francisca Amato Banfield, are you really, is that really the worst thing in the world?
Oh, yeah, no, she actually, God, what is her name? I'm drawing a blank at the moment. It was just tonight. It looks like she attached herself to, what was that was sent to me earlier? The Thomas Valva. Justina, what is it? Zubico Valva, the mother of the child that was killed by the New York Police Department, or police officer. Tonight, Fran did an interview with that mother who had, for years, tried to get CPS to step in and say that her ex-husband was going to kill the children. And then that happened. This is the autistic child, Thomas Valva, that was forced to sleep in the garage. I remember that. So she's getting herself involved in that. So it's high-profile cases that she can exploit for her own personal financial gains. And then, of course, to bring them into what you've been saying is the sovereign movement. And so I didn't call it the sovereign movement back when I first ran into her. I just said she's a fraud, I didn't know what to call it. But you start listening to these people, and Miko, with all due respect, words do have meaning. So if you say, well, what is admiralty law, or what is these things that these crazy people are saying, some of their stuff is based on constitutional theory, but they're just like you said about Kirk Pendergrass. I had an hour-long talk with him, and talking to him for an hour was like trying to relitigate my own court case with that guy to prove anything that I'm saying. So I get it. They're filled with just word garbage. But at the end of the day, some of what they say is based in facts, and then what I got to say is, okay, well, here's based in what you're saying, and this is what I think is true. Now, what do you want from me? And it normally involves a link to where I can send them a money, and it goes down the long lines of, well, I'm not going to do this for you unless it's free. There's another guy that Kirk likes to do is Louis Ewing, who will sit there and he'll say, you got to pay me for my, you got to pay me for my services. And it's like, yeah, but what your services are is considered documentation in court is considered that what you're paying for is paper terrorism. That's what you called it very nice, as it's defined. And so why would they encourage people to pay for their own paper terrorism? When I file in a court, it's like, here's a brief paragraph of the bare minimum of what you require. These people want you to file something that's longer than the Declaration of Independence and try to think that a judge who has 15 cases on the docket that day thinks that he's going to read all that. It's insane. And they try to get you into their legal Zoom classes, and they try to get you into all this stuff, and it's all a scam. So, Miko, of course, you're going to be attacked. I was attacked. It's bound to happen. But, I like the Daily Haze, whether you're writing about a cheeseburger or a Twinkie, something. The chicken sandwich that got fucked on Twitter.
Yes, that's what I appreciate, is the fact that you'll write about what is the truth of the world here. And it's so, I appreciate it. I think a lot of people enjoy how you've evolved your platforms. Word to the wise, try to figure out how to silence your calls, because these people have ways of calling in and call bombing your Skype, and I mean, it's weird. So just get ready for that. And again, just a pleasure,
Well,
honor
one
to
thing
talk
that's
to you,
kind
Miko.
of nice is the service that I'm using is I can completely silence all notifications when I don't want it on, and the number's not related. It's not my Skype or anything like that. So.
Oh
they'll just
well, I
basically-
gotta figure out what you're using, Miko. But again, just a pleasure to talk to you and to get a moment of your time. I'll continue to watch and learn, and I just hope that we don't confuse trying to educate the public on what might be concerns and things that should be talked about versus who is scamming people for your hard-earned money and not doing a thing for you, and then going live to talk about how you're a fraud and a scam the moment you question them on their integrity.
Well, you know, one way that I've always tried to compare it to people is do you have to pay? You know, because I'll never, especially when it comes to independent media, streamers, shit like that, I'll never be against crowdfunding at any point in time in my life.
Never.
But the thing is that when you do a crowdfunding donation support type system, it's not mandatory.
Well, Miko, real quick, if I could ask you this, you went out to Standing Rock again. I was there. I saw what it was. I saw what it was tried to be portrayed. I saw my own version or my own perspective of things. And one of the things that a lot of people did was crowdsource media to cover stories, to crowdsource everything.
Standing Rock was a nightmare.
It was.
That actually was why I barely use GoFundMe's ever. That's actually one of the main reasons why I don't share out people's GoFundMe's, just because so many popped out during that time. And I get requests for them all the time. I feel bad at times saying no, but the problem is that I get requests all the time to share them out. And so unless it's story worthy and I can do like an article with it, I just don't share them even from my personal account, because then other people are like, what the fuck, you didn't share mine? And it's like, well, what the fuck, yours is clearly bullshit.
But would you agree though that Standing Rock though had a lot of community funding to get, like, a lot of people raised money and helped each other out? That was kind of like a.
But it was a very good and bad situation. A lot of money that was brought in down there, especially when it comes to some of the leadership, like Archambault and the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, their chairman, Dave Archambault Jr. There was a lot of questions where the money went. There was a lot of people. There's a lot of people that made a lot of money that had nothing to do with the oil company or the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Correct. Yes, sir. But one of the things I was going to say was that the governor of South Dakota here, she just tried to pass legislation that made basically any type of funding going out to Standing Rock. And if you're, like, let's say you're rounded up in a group of people and somebody is suspected of causing a riot or anything, if they round you all up, you can all get charged in South Dakota under the new riot law boosting bill, and it's pretty tough. Like, they're trying to stop Standing Rock Part 2 from happening. Yeah, it's pretty crazy out here in South Dakota. But if it does go down to Standing Rock Part 2, I guess to get you on the record, would you come to Standing Rock Part 2?
Oh yeah, no, of course. I would almost prefer it now, because there is a lot. See, I don't know. Like the Standing Rock thing, I was in a weird place. Like I was in North Camp, the camp right up from Ocheti Shekaway before it was raided. The North Camp that was right across from the burial ground where the video with Discovery Now and all that and the dog attacks. That's the camp that I stayed at first, and that's like the group of people that I was linked up with at first, because I knew one of the people that formed the camp from Ferguson. He was one of the Anonymous 5 at Ferguson, Flo. And he actually, it was on my last day of my first weekend in Standing Rock, and I was looking for this North Camp because people had talked about it, but like nobody knew exactly what or where it was. I finally found it, and while I was just shooting some B-reel stuff, I just heard like, Miko! And I turned around, there's Flo. I was like, holy shit, I heard you were here, dude. He's like, yeah, this is my camp, stay. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, stay. And so
small world.
Went and told my ride that I guess I'm staying. And I went and got my stuff out of her car and slept on the side of the highway with flow in a group of about a dozen people. And that camp was getting like support from Ochetti and whatnot, but I stayed up there because that was an important spot. It was right across from the burial ground. That was like the center of where they were going through. But there is a lot of weird oppression and shit with that North camp. Like, they were sending up people to try and bully us to take it down. A lot of the council actually was doing that. I believe it was American. I think it was American Horse. I believe was his name. He was like the only council member that was actually defending us and saying like, no, let that camp stay up. So there was a lot of red flags. I don't know. I think, because I still talk to some people that were pretty prominent actually in the Standing Rock thing, and not the ones like on the head of Sacred Stone and shit like that. Like, because I don't know, even like all the leadership, I have a few questions and issues with just how everything played out. But there is a lot of people, I mean, myself included, that really screwed a lot of people up. It was so heartbreaking to watch something like that be defeated, and basically be defeated by inner conflict and sabotage and greed.
Yeah, and that's where, again, I mean, the lessons that we learned last time, I'm telling you, the government learned their lessons too. And so when these next big oil pipeline pushes come, because that's what essentially this last legislative session kind of weighed out for us here in South Dakota, was the governor's going to be a oil pipeline governor, and she's going to approve some major things coming up here in the next 2 years, and it's going to push a lot of these reservations to a point where they're not going to like what's going to happen. So but yeah, Mr. Hayes, again, just a pleasure to get a moment of your time. I love what you do, and again, I wish you nothing but success on the platform. And I donate, and I don't send you a love donation. I just willfully give you $5 because I appreciate the fact you'd write about a chicken sandwich. So
well, I appreciate that.
You more than earned that, Mr. Hayes. So again, if you ever could, I'd love to interview you, because I know you do a lot of interviews, but I'd love to interview you sometime and talk a little bit about Miko Hayes.
I need to do that more, and I'm meaning to. I want to start coming over on other people's platforms more.
Well, I'd love to talk about, discuss, and have you over, and maybe we can talk about those sovereign citizens a little bit more, because there's some things I'd like to know your opinion on that you haven't really got to on your platform yet. So.
Oh yeah.
Again, just a pleasure, sir, and you have yourself a good morning.
You too. It was good to talk to you, CJ.
Take care, Mr. Hayes. All right, bye.
That's kind of nice. I kind of like this call-in thing. I think we could do this as a regular thing at the end of different lives and whatnot. I bet like earlier in the day with some like Fran or stuff like that, when their followers are all super pissed, I bet we can get some pretty interesting calls. So yeah, okay, I'm glad that I asked about doing the call-in thing and you guys responded. I'm kind of glad that we got that set up. All right, let's do it radio style again. Hello, caller.
Hi, Miko. It's Nick Raines.
Hi, Nick.
Man, I'm glad you're on YouTube. I'm glad you're exposing these people. I really, think they're doing disservice to everybody that wants to make police more accountable to the Constitution that they took an oath to. I see all these First Amendment auditors sort of thing. And I agree with a lot of what they do, but does that make me a sovereign citizen because I believe that the police should follow the Constitution?
Now, it's interesting that you bring that up, especially because they are like just expanding into so many movements. You can find them in a lot of places, and that is a problem because they do speak of some real shit. They speak of some real problems, and they speak of some real parts of the Constitution, actually, just like CJ was just pointing out, they do bring up some realistic stuff, but then they just mix it with such bullshit that that's where the problem comes into play. But because of them using those rare, they are pretty rare, actual realistic things, if you believe in it, there is that, I don't know. The laws get crazier and almost draconian in a lot of different points.
How many laws do they make a year? You know what I mean? New laws do they make in a year? That violate our constitutional, our constitutional way of life. And I fall back. I did the big cannabis campaign here in Missouri, and that all spurred from Baby Autumn. I met with her mom, got met Baby Autumn, and I didn't know anything about cannabis when I started this, and then I met the baby with the epilepsy, and it cures. It doesn't cure epilepsy. It slows it down considerably, and for that to be illegal, our way of life and our Constitution says, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And, that's definitely under life, and that's definitely under pursuit of happiness, And I just don't want to be put on a terrorist watch list because I believe, in certain things. So that's really all I was saying.
Well, and I feel like for the most part, it's easy to avoid. I don't really know the extent with the QAnon group or the Sovereign Citizen of how far the FBI is going as far as name collection, what they're using.
Is there any way we could find that out?
I really doubt that they will have a full open. That'd probably take a series of denied freedom of information requests, possibly a lawsuit. Because that's just something. What I imagine is probably in the next few years there'll be some shocking thing of the FBI had 8,000 people that all clicked on this one page at Underwatch, and like one of those things that comes out way after the fact. I don't think they've really set a guideline of what they're using to determine who.
And how scary is that? How scary is that?
It honestly is. There is a lot of power handed over to the country after 9/11 and over to the government.
And if you talk out about it, you're one of those kinds of people.
Well, and at the same time, it's this weird chaotic circle, this chaotic full circle, because at the same time the sovereign movement is attracted, or people are attracted to it, because the government is so broken, and at times it seems so insane and just overbearing that these people go towards this sovereign citizen because they can't deal with it. They don't know how to handle the criminal. They're facing 15 years in prison and they're losing their mind, and so it definitely goes back to that desperation and kind of plays into each other of the oppressive government creates it.
That Francesca lady, preying on these mothers that were probably okay mothers and really believe that their babies were taken in properly. There's got to be a handful that were bad that really need to be taken away or whatever, but I'm sure there's one or two or three in there that probably didn't need to, I believe Jennifer Wynn, has publicized a bunch of good mothers, and that CPS has hurt. I was following that for a while. And like I said, we got to get that under control. That's another constitutional thing that I just believe is being decimated by these people, especially Kansas. I'm over here in Missouri, but Kansas is just off the rails with what they can do. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's easy to see how people can be duped by these people. You know what I mean?
Well, and oddly enough in Kansas, we actually, I was actually just talking with one of our state reps. She might be watching right now. I think that's the first time that I've got to verbally call her that because I haven't been out in public and seen her. But we were actually just talking about that, and basically the governor of Kansas being useless. Like, she's just happy to be there. Obviously, she was talking about legalizing medical marijuana and other things, coming up with a lot bigger backbone.
Do you remember when we were at the Capitol?
Which time was?
Well, I meant with Baby Autumn, and when she was running around.
Oh yeah. I think was that.
Yeah.
That
I mean, and that's the first time I ever met you. And so when these people, and this is another thing I wanted to say, when these people talk about you stealing their information, and this is totally off the subject, but I heard that they were saying you're stealing their information, you're a bad guy. All the work I put in, the 3 freaking years that I put in, you were always there. You were always there to stand up and speak and tell the truth about this or that. I mean, you are a good guy, and I know that for a fact.
Let's not go as far as
I knew
good
it from that Capitol.
Let's
that
not,
day
let's
from
not
the
go as
Capitol.
far as good guy. I'm necessary evil.
Yeah, well, you were a good guy that day. Let me put it that way. Being there for a baby that couldn't speak for herself, and that should speak for a lot of them.
Well, Autumn's a homie. I remember Autumn dumping her snacks on the floor of the.
I know, dude, running around naked.
Yeah, the
running
one
around trying to pull a
office,
diaper off. Yeah, it was awesome. Great days. Good days.
Actually, last year I went and stayed the night with Autumn, and I need to go up to Colorado at some point and
Nice.
see if I'll miss at some point.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to back you, man, and tell you I'm glad you're on YouTube. I'm really I've been hoping you'd go that route for a long time.
I should have went a long time ago, but it's okay. I'm here now. I'm going to start pushing
You're here.
the YouTube, the Facebook page, and website, and we'll start getting everything on its feet.
For sure. Good luck, brother. I'm at work, so I got to bounce.
Well, you enjoy your day at work, and thank you for watching and calling.
Not a problem, brother. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Yeah. I think I dig the call-in thing. So yeah, I think we're going to end it on that, though. It is 3:30 in the morning. We went ahead and ran all the way through the sovereign citizen thing. So we did everything we intended to do. And it is pretty late, though. So I think I'm going to end this. Now that we do have this call-in thing locked down, that gives you new incentive to call or to watch, because trust me, I'm going to get cussed out and screamed at by somebody in the near future. I can already see that, which is awesome. I like that. Maybe we can get Kirk and Fran, or maybe Fran or David will call in. David, Jose, Francesca Amato. If you or any of your followers see this, you can now make a phone call. You can just call in, and you can explain yourself through all the ease of just a simple phone call. And it'll be that same number that I just turn on at a certain point of the live every time. So, as usual, everybody supporting is awesome. Anywhere, if you click the supporting link all the way to sharing, to just liking, watching, commenting, all of you guys are appreciated, especially as now we start to grow this YouTube channel. I think the YouTube channel broke 400 subscribers today, which is like, fuck yeah. Still baby channel, little baby channel, but it's okay. We'll grow it. There's also, again, the description has a link to the article that covers everything that was in this live tonight. It has a link to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can follow, and subscribe to all three, and hit the notification bell and find out when I am going live, because we are going to start doing these lives on other subjects and shit too. And I'll probably start doing some breaking stuff for you guys, like just some of the things that get real confusing, like mass shooting type shit. Normally, I'm pretty on speed with the bigger guys. I just don't have as big of an outlet on names and figuring out what's going on there. What is the YouTube channel name? It is Discuss. It is just straight up Discuss. Let's see. I can pull it up. Yep. Yep, we did break 400 subscribers today. So that's cool. I think we're like somewhere around 200-ish, like not like 10 days ago or so. So that's pretty cool. Thank you guys for that little bump in growth, and we'll keep on doing that growth. So, yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys. Anything that you could possibly need is up in the description. And tomorrow we'll probably I'll do a live on this Andrew Herrman thing, the kid that claims that he was a sex trafficking victim that disappeared in the 90s or whatever. I'm going to look more into that tonight and get something together, and yeah, we'll definitely probably do that tomorrow. Another thing too, anybody that catches this last little minute, I've been thinking about, which I've wanted to, but with taking care of my grandma, it's been a little hard. But maybe as she's starting to slow down a bit more and be a little bit less needy, because really now she's staying in just one spot, just kind of laying 20 hours a day easily, if not the full 24 hours. So I'm getting a bit more time. Like some of the presidential stuff coming up, do we want to start like doing streams of like the Bernie rallies and the Trump rallies and shit like that and talk about the bullshit they're spewing? That's something I've wondered about, and that's something I'm definitely open to hear your guys' opinion on. And in general, if there's anything that you guys think we should do, or just different topics, feel free to message the Facebook page and let me know, because I'm definitely willing to hear any of that out and shit. So you guys have a good night. Keep that in mind, and we will the Kirk interview. Yeah, me and Kirk Pendergrass had a very interesting interview one time. Kirk, if you ever want to call in or come back on again, feel free to message the Facebook page, and we can do that. So Mr. Kirk Pendergrass, Paging Kirk Pendergrass, if you want to come back on or come on the new stream, then please feel free. That goes for Chris Hallett too, or any of you guys. So, no, I do not want the burn, Mr. Breedlove. I do not want the burn. I actually am not like a huge Bernie supporter or anything like that. So I just think he's probably one of the best chances of actually running. Timothy Herrman. Timothy Homseth is still one that I want to look way more into. But, okay, you guys have a good night, morning, day, afternoon, evening, whatever it is when you're seeing this, wherever this is. And I will see you guys tomorrow.